It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I remember standing in front of the mirror that morning, trying not to shake. The makeup artist kept telling me to breathe, that it was normal to feel nervous. But I wasn't nervous, not exactly. I was excited. After 5 years of dating, 2 years of engagement, and countless hours spent planning every tiny detail of this wedding, I was finally marrying Adam. Or so I thought. Adam and I met at work, cliché, I know. He was the witty, confident guy from finance. I was the slightly awkward but passionate girl in marketing. He made me laugh when I was stressed. He brought me soup when I had the flu. He danced with my grandmother at my cousin's wedding. He proposed on a hike with a picnic and a ring tucked inside a chocolate truffle box. Because I'm obsessed with chocolate. It was perfect. He was perfect. Or, I thought he was. Our wedding was going to be beautiful. A small garden ceremony with a string quartet, followed by a cozy, candlelit reception. Just 80 of our closest friends and family. I wore my mom's wedding veil, had handwritten vows, and had even memorized the order of the first dances and speeches. Everything was in place. Everything was ready, until Adam disappeared, an hour before the ceremony. At first, I thought maybe he was just taking a walk to clear his head. Cold feet are a thing, right? But then 10 minutes passed. Then 20. His best man, Will, was avoiding eye contact. My maid of honor, Jess, kept refreshing her phone, texting his sister, his mom, Will. No one was answering. Everyone was getting antsy. The guests had already started arriving. I felt like I was going to throw up. 30 minutes before the ceremony, his mom finally pulled me aside. "He's not coming," she said softly. I blinked. "What?" "He left," she whispered. He's gone. Gone. No note. No message. Just vanished." I collapsed into a chair, still in my wedding dress, surrounded by people whispering, pretending not to look, not to judge. My world shattered. I didn't even cry. Not then. It was like everything inside me just shut off. Like I'd been unplugged from my own body. But then came the rage. Because 24 hours later, when he finally answered my text with just one sentence, "I can't do this, I'm sorry." That was the moment something broke. The real reason. Over the next week, I didn't leave my apartment. I ignored everyone. I lived on stale cereal and water. I didn't sleep. I just scrolled through my texts, my photos, the memories, trying to find the moment it all went wrong. And then I found it. An email from 6 weeks ago. A forwarded message from Will to Adam. Subject, "Last night fire." I clicked it. What I read made my stomach churn. Screenshots, photos, inside jokes, nicknames. My fiancé and his best man, Will, had been having an affair. For almost a year. There it was in black and white. Dates, details. Laughing about pulling this off until the wedding. Even mentioning how maybe she'll figure it out eventually. No wonder he couldn't face me at the altar. No wonder Will kept avoiding my eyes. They hadn't just betrayed me, they had planned it, covered it up, played along. I felt like a character in someone else's nightmare. And then, I made a decision. If they wanted to humiliate me quietly, I would respond loudly. The reception. 2 weeks after the wedding that wasn't, I invited all our guests back to the same venue. I told them I had an announcement. I wore my dress. I stood on the stage where I should have made my vows. And I told them everything. I pulled up the email on the projector. Read the messages out loud. Let the silence sit like a thundercloud over the room. You could hear a pin drop. People gasped. Some cried. Adam's parents looked like they'd been punched in the gut. Will's girlfriend ran out of the room sobbing. It was brutal. And honestly, it was cathartic. I ended it with this. To everyone who came here to celebrate our love, I'm sorry. But at least now, we can all stop pretending he was someone he never really was. People clapped. Some even hugged me. That night, I slept. The fallout. The next day, my phone blew up. Messages of support. A few hate texts from Will's friends. Adam never reached out again. But his sister did. "Thank you for telling the truth. We didn't know. None of us did." And then I got a message from Will's ex. "You saved me from marrying a liar. I owe you." Still, not everyone thought I handled it well. A few people said it was too dramatic or public shaming. One of my own cousins even said I was stooping to their level. But was I? They planned to lie, to use me, to walk me down the aisle like everything was fine, then laugh about it behind my back. Would silence have been kinder? Maybe, but not to me. Now, months later, I'm rebuilding. I started therapy. I joined a gym. I adopted a cat. And I'm writing this now because part of me still wonders. Did I go too far? I didn't name call. I didn't doctor evidence. I just showed people what was real. Was that wrong? So, Reddit AITA for exposing the real reason my fiancé didn't show up at our wedding. At what would have been our reception. If you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of listener I create these stories for. Don't forget to subscribe. It all started with a letter, a yellowed envelope with my name handwritten on the front. No return address. It arrived on a Thursday morning, tucked between a pile of wedding RSVPs and catering invoices. I almost threw it away without opening it. Almost. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed in courier font, with one sentence. Before you marry her, you deserve to know the truth. No signature, no clues, just that. And just like that, the countdown to my wedding, which had been filled with venue walkthroughs and flower samples, turned into something else entirely. Let me back up. My name's Ethan, and in 2 weeks, I was supposed to marry the love of my life, Kira. We'd been together for 5 years. She was warm, kind, endlessly patient. The kind of woman who remembered the names of your coworkers' dogs and sent handwritten thank you notes. Kira was perfect, or at least I thought she was. We met in college. She was studying early childhood education. I was in architecture. We were that annoyingly cute couple, finishing each other's sentences, bringing each other coffee before class. Her parents, Diane and Robert, were both retired teachers. Quiet, conservative, protective, too protective. I never questioned it at first. Kira said her parents were just set in their ways. They didn't like visitors. They didn't do holidays with other families. They didn't like to talk about their past. Old-fashioned, she'd say, laughing. But after that letter, I started noticing things I hadn't seen before, like how Diane always flinched when someone mentioned Chicago, or how Robert never spoke about his side of the family, ever, or the locked filing cabinet in their guest room Kira once brushed off as old tax stuff. The letter gnawed at me. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't. I started digging. I knew it was a mistake. I knew it would make me the bad guy, but something told me if I didn't find out now, I'd regret it forever. So I drove to their house while Kira was at her final dress fitting. Told myself I just wanted to look around. Not even sure what I was looking for. I found it in that cabinet. Inside were birth certificates, old passports, newspaper clippings. But the thing that froze me in place was a Polaroid. A little girl, curly-haired, smiling, holding the hand of a woman I didn't recognize. Written on the back in fading ink, Kira and Mom, 1996. I turned cold. Because Diane, the woman I knew as Kira's mother, had once told me Kira was adopted at birth, that her biological parents couldn't care for her. But this photo wasn't of a newborn. This was a 3 or 4-year-old child, and she wasn't with Diane. The newspaper clippings filled in the blanks. Custody case, a court ruling. One name kept popping up, Elena Vasquez, Kira's real mother. Took me another few hours to piece it all together, but here's the gist. Elena had lost custody of Kira in a messy legal battle. The details were murky, something about mental health, unstable living conditions, a missing father. Diane and Robert were foster parents. They took Kira in. But somewhere along the way, they cut off contact completely. Moved states. Changed their names. They never adopted Kira legally. They just kept her. And Kira didn't know. I wish I could say I handled it gracefully. That I walked away and let sleeping dogs lie. But I didn't. I told Kira everything. That night. Laid it all out, the letter, the photo, the documents. First, she didn't believe me. She screamed, accused me of trying to ruin her life, said I was jealous of how close she was to her parents. Then I showed her the photo, and she collapsed. The wedding was called off the next day. She stopped speaking to me for a week. Then she sent me a voicemail. "You were right, but I'm not sure I can forgive you for how you told me. It's been 4 months since then. We haven't spoken since. I think about her every day. Her parents? Last I heard, there's an investigation. Maybe even criminal charges. I'm not sure, but I still ask myself, was I the asshole for blowing up her life days before our wedding? Or did she deserve to know the truth, no matter how painful? If the story kept you hooked, imagine what's next. Hit subscribe and join thousands who never miss a moment. You won't regret it." Growing up, my family looked picture perfect on the outside. We were the smiling holiday card, the suburban dream, 2 hardworking parents, a cozy home, and 3 well-behaved kids. I was the oldest, then my sister Ellie, then our younger brother Ben. But like all perfect pictures, ours had some cracks. And one of those cracks was something I kept hidden for nearly 18 years. A secret so big, even I wasn't sure it was real at times. The truth? I had a half-brother. His name is Tyler. My dad had an affair when I was around 10, and my mom found out. They fought, screamed, nearly divorced, but ended up working things out for the sake of us kids. What they didn't tell anyone, not even Ellie and Ben, was that the woman my dad cheated with had gotten pregnant. I only knew because I accidentally overheard a conversation between my parents one night. I never confronted them. I just kept it to myself. Years later, when I was 15, I found Tyler online. I recognized his face instantly. He looked like me. Same eyes, same crooked smile. I messaged him. He messaged back. And that's how we started talking. At first it was awkward, both of us not sure what we were to each other. But over the years, we became close. Not best friends, not brothers in the traditional sense, but connected. I'd visit him sometimes when I went away for college. We never told anyone. Fast forward to this year. Our mom passed away suddenly from a stroke. It hit us like a truck. One minute she was baking banana bread, the next she was gone. The funeral was heartbreaking, and everyone was there. Family, friends, co-workers, and Tyler. I hadn't expected him to come. I hadn't invited him. But he showed up, stood in the back, quiet, respectful, wearing a black suit. My siblings didn't recognize him, of course. Neither did most of the guests. But my dad did. His face went white as a sheet when he spotted Tyler standing near the exit. After the service, as people were mingling and crying and hugging, Ellie approached me and asked, "Do you know that guy over there? The one with your exact face?" Panicked. I tried to brush it off. But then Ben joined in. "He looks like you, man. Is he a cousin or something?" I sighed. Couldn't lie anymore. I told them the truth about Dad's affair, about Tyler, about how I've known for years. They lost. Ellie started crying. Not because of Tyler, but because I hadn't told her. Ben was furious. My dad looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. And then all hell broke loose. My aunt started yelling at my dad. Tyler tried to leave quietly, but my dad stopped him. They talked for a few minutes off to the side. I don't know what was said, but my dad came back looking even more ashamed. Afterward, I got texts and calls from multiple family members. Some were mad at me for making a scene at the funeral. Others were upset I hadn't told them earlier. Ellie hasn't spoken to me since. Ben says he needs space. Now, I don't know what I expected. I didn't mean for it to happen this way, but part of me is angry, too. Why did I have to be the keeper of this secret for so long? Why was it on me to protect everyone's feelings? I was a kid when I found out. I didn't ask for this. Still, I can't shake the feeling that maybe I should have told them sooner. Given them time to process, to prepare. Maybe Tyler shouldn't have come. Maybe I should have stopped him. But it was his mother's funeral too, in a way. Our mother was never his, but she was part of the story that created him. So, am I the asshole for not telling anyone about my secret brother until he showed up at our mom's funeral? If you're still listening, thank you for hearing me out. If you enjoy stories like this, it would mean the world if you subscribed. We share powerful, emotional journeys every day, and you won't want to miss what's next. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my wife's terminally ill sister move in with us? It started with a knock on our door. A quiet, hesitant knock that didn't quite match the kind of chaos that would soon follow. My name's Jake. I'm 35, and my wife Emily is 33. We've been married for 6 years, and for the most part, life has been peaceful. We bought a cozy little house in the suburbs a few years back. We both work stable jobs, have a dog named Murphy, and spend our weekends watching documentaries or hiking. We don't have kids, and that's been a mutual choice. Emily's older sister, Rachel, is 38. Rachel has always been a bit intense. She's loud, opinionated, and unapologetically invasive. Over the years, our relationship with her has been rocky at best. She never really respected our boundaries, and she had a habit of dropping by unannounced or overstaying her welcome. But everything changed when Rachel was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It was aggressive, and doctors gave her less than a year. Naturally, Emily was devastated. I was too. Nobody wants to see someone they love go through something like that, no matter the past. Rachel didn't have a great support system. She'd burned a lot of bridges with friends and extended family, and she had been living alone in a small apartment downtown. Emily started visiting her more, helping with groceries, hospital trips, and appointments. I supported that. I even went with them sometimes. But then one night, while we were watching TV, Emily turned to me and said, "Jake, I've been thinking, Rachel can't do this alone. I want her to move in with us." My gut dropped. Now, I want to be very clear. I am not heartless. I don't wish Rachel ill. But the idea of her moving into our home, our peaceful, quiet space, sent alarm bells ringing. I knew what it would mean. The constant caretaking, the emotional weight, the medical equipment, the disruption, and Rachel herself, with all her bluntness and drama, living with us 24/7. I paused. I looked at Emily, and I said, "I'm sorry. I can't do that." She stared at me like I just slapped her. "She's dying, Jake." "I know, but I can't do it. I can't give up our home, our space, our peace like that. We can help her find other options, hospice care, in-home nursing, or maybe even a temporary stay here and there. But I can't have her move in permanently." That conversation broke something between us. Emily cried. A lot. She called me selfish, cruel, and cold-hearted. I told her I was just being honest, that I wasn't willing to sacrifice our entire way of life. Not like that. Not for someone who'd never treated us kindly. The next day, Emily packed a bag and left to stay with Rachel. She didn't speak to me for a week. Eventually, she came home, quieter than before. She didn't bring Rachel up again right away. But the silence between us grew thick and heavy. I tried to talk. I tried to explain myself better, to tell her that I love her, and I'll support her in every way I can. But I just can't have Rachel live here. She nodded, but her eyes said something else. Weeks passed. Rachel's health declined, and Emily spent more time with her. I started feeling like a ghost in my own marriage. I come home to an empty house. Murphy would wag his tail like he missed me more than my own wife did. One night, Emily came home late. She stood in the doorway, exhausted. I offered her dinner. She sat down, picked at her food, and finally said, "Rachel's moving in, whether you're okay with it or not." I blinked. "Emily, we've talked about this. I'm not asking any more," she said. "I can't let her die alone." I sat there stunned. Part of me wanted to yell. Part of me wanted to cry. But all I did was nod slowly and say, "Then I think you've made your choice." I slept in the guest room that night. Rachel moved in a few days later. She brought drama, complaints, and chaos. Nurses came in and out. Machines beeped. The house smelled like antiseptic. My peaceful sanctuary became a battleground of grief and tension. Emily was constantly stressed. We fought more than ever. One night, after another argument about space and noise and boundaries, I finally snapped and shouted, "I told you I didn't want this. You brought this into our home without my consent." Rachel, lying weakly in the living room, overheard us. The next day, Emily told me I was cruel, that Rachel heard everything, that I made her feel unwelcome in what should have been her final safe space. I wanted to argue, but instead, I packed a bag and left. I stayed with a friend for 2 weeks. During that time, Emily didn't call. I saw updates on social media. Rachel's health declined rapidly. Then, one evening, I got the message. Rachel had passed. I returned home the next day. The house was quiet again. But not the peaceful kind of quiet. The kind that settles into your bones and makes your heart ache. Emily and I haven't been the same since. We barely speak. We exist like strangers passing each other in a hallway. So now here I am, asking the internet, am I the asshole for refusing to let my dying sister-in-law move in with us? Or was I just trying to protect my own mental health, my space, and my marriage? I didn't want this ending, but I also didn't want to lose myself in the process of trying to save someone else. If you stayed until the end, I truly appreciate you. I hope my story made you think. And if it did, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps more than you know and keeps stories like this coming your way. I told my fiancé's sister she was the reason he left her at the altar. Am I the asshole? My fiancé, Josh, left me at the altar. Just disappeared. No warning, no explanation, just vanished. What was supposed to be the happiest day of my life turned into the most humiliating and confusing nightmare I could imagine. For hours, I sat in the bride's room, in my gown, makeup running, ignoring the increasingly sympathetic looks from everyone around me. And when I finally dragged myself out of there, still in my wedding dress, I went home and sobbed myself to sleep. That was 6 weeks ago. For a long time, I didn't know why. Josh wouldn't talk to me. He wouldn't answer texts, calls, emails, nothing. He moved out of our shared apartment without warning and ghosted everyone we knew. No one had any answers. Until 2 days ago, his sister, Emily, finally called me. She said she couldn't keep the secret anymore. She told me Josh didn't leave because he stopped loving me. He left because she told him something the night before the wedding, something that made him question everything. Emily had pulled Josh aside during the rehearsal dinner. She told him she didn't think I was wife material, that I was too controlling, that I wanted to change him, and that I only cared about appearances. She said I'd stifle him, that he'd be miserable. She went on and on, painting this twisted version of our relationship that wasn't remotely accurate. And apparently, she was convincing enough that Josh panicked and ran. I was stunned, and then I was furious. Yesterday, we ran into each other at a mutual friend's birthday party. Emily had the audacity to come over to me like nothing had happened. She actually smiled and said, "It's probably for the best, right? You weren't happy either." Something in me snapped. I stood up, right there in front of everyone, and said, "You know what, Emily? You're the reason your brother left me. He didn't get cold feet. He didn't fall out of love. He believed the lies you told him, and you ruined the best thing that ever happened to him. So congratulations. You got what you wanted." She went pale. Everyone around us went quiet. She mumbled something and walked away, clearly embarrassed. Later, I got a text from her saying I embarrassed her in public and that I was being dramatic. She said she was just trying to protect her brother and that it wasn't her fault he made his own decision. But I don't feel like I was being dramatic. I lost everything because of her manipulations. I couldn't hold it in anymore. So, am I the asshole? If you've made it this far, you're exactly the kind of listener who makes this channel special. If the stories moved you, hit that subscribe button right now. It's free and it helps a ton. Plus, you won't miss any of our upcoming deep, emotional stories. I told my mom she can't see my baby after what she did to my brother. Growing up, my family always looked perfect from the outside. White picket fence, Sunday barbecues, holiday cards with forced smiles, the works. But behind all that, we were a mess. And no one made things worse than my mom. She always favored my younger brother, Nate. I'm not saying that like a bitter older sibling. I'm saying it because it was obvious to everyone. Even my dad once said, "Your mom has a blind spot when it comes to Nate." He said it like a joke, but it wasn't. Nate could do no wrong. Crashed the car at 17? Boys will be boys. Failed 3 college classes. He's just finding himself. Got caught shoplifting. They probably targeted him. But if I came home 5 minutes late from school, grounded, got a B in math, I was not applying myself. It wasn't just frustrating, it was humiliating. Still, I kept my distance and tried to live my own life. I got a scholarship, graduated early, married my college sweetheart, and we just had our first baby. A little girl named Hazel. She's perfect, and maybe that's why what happened hurts even more now. Nate, on the other hand, hasn't changed much. He's 27, no job, couch surfs between girlfriends, and leans heavily on our parents. Mostly my mom. For money, food, and emotional bailouts. About a year ago, Nate got his girlfriend, Callie, pregnant. Honestly, I was shocked he even told us. But he did, or rather, my mom told us for him. At the time, he said he wasn't ready to be a dad. Callie wanted to keep the baby, but Nate made it clear he wanted nothing to do with it. He ghosted her for a few weeks, came back briefly, then left again. Callie had the baby, a boy named Jamie, and for a few weeks I thought maybe Nate would step up. He didn't, but guess who did? My mom. She started calling Jamie her baby, bought him clothes, toys, diapers. More than she ever bought for me when I was a kid. She visited Callie constantly, even though Nate wasn't in the picture. When I asked her about it, she said, "I'm not going to let my grandson suffer just because his father is an idiot." At first, I admired that, but then it got weird. She started posting photos of Jamie on Facebook as if he were hers. Nana's boy, my little angel. Family is everything. I'd scroll through her posts and see more photos of Jamie than anyone else. I'm not exaggerating. Meanwhile, when I got pregnant with Hazel, she barely reacted. No gifts. No excited calls. Just a bland, "Let me know when she's born." That hurt, but I tried not to take it personally. Then Hazel was born. We sent photos. No reply. I called her the next day. She said, "I'll try to visit next week. Jamie has a checkup and I promised Callie I'd go with her." I waited. A week passed. Then two. She still hadn't seen her own granddaughter. Finally, I asked her directly, "When are you coming to meet Hazel?" She said, "It's just not a good time. Jamie's been fussy and Callie's overwhelmed. I need to be there for them right now." Something inside me snapped. I told her, "You've never even held your granddaughter, and you're playing house with your son's ex and their baby while ignoring your own family." She got defensive. "Don't make this a competition. I love all my grandchildren equally." That was the final straw. I told her not to bother coming anymore, that if she couldn't be there for Hazel from the beginning, she didn't get to show up later when it was convenient for her. She cried, said I was being cruel, that she was just trying to fix what Nate broke, that Jamie needed her more, and maybe he does, but so does Hazel, and Hazel only gets one first month of life. My mom chose to miss it. Now she's calling, texting, asking for forgiveness. She wants to visit. She wants to make things right. But I told her she's not welcome, at least not right now. My dad called me saying I should reconsider, that this isn't like her, but it is. It's exactly like her. It's always been Nate first. My husband supports me 100%. He saw it all play out and said, "If she's not here for us now, why would we let her be here later?" But I can't help but feel guilty. Nate is a disaster, sure, but Jamie's an innocent baby. Maybe my mom is just trying to do right by someone who needs it. Maybe I'm punishing her for Nate's mistakes. Still, Hazel deserves someone who shows up, not someone who only calls when the drama dies down. So, am I the asshole for telling my mom she can't see my baby after what she did to my brother? Or am I finally setting boundaries with someone who never really saw me as her child? If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, or like your pain was just background noise to someone else's drama, I hope this story made you feel seen. And if it did, do something small that helps this channel grow. Hit that subscribe button and be part of something honest. It only takes a second, but it means the world. On weekends, forget going out with friends. I had to watch Jacob while Sarah slept in or went out with her friends. She acted like she was still a teenager who deserved a break. Meanwhile, I was the one giving up my teenage years to raise a kid that wasn't mine. It wasn't like I didn't speak up. I did, many times. But every time I brought up how unfair it was, My parents would say things like, "Family helps family," or "It's just until she gets back on her feet." I resented them, all of them, especially Sarah. By the time I was 18 and ready to go to college, I'd had enough. I chose a university in another state not because it was the best one, but because it was the furthest I could afford to go. I cut contact with my family for a while. I just needed space, freedom. I didn't talk to Sarah for years. Occasionally I'd get messages from my parents asking how I was. But I kept things short. Fast forward to last year. I've got a good job, my own apartment, and a life I've built from scratch. No kids, no drama. Then Sarah reaches out of nowhere. She sends a message asking if we can talk. I ignored it at first, but after a few weeks of persistence, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop. She looked different, tired, older than her years. She told me that Jacob was now 15, and she was struggling. Financially, emotionally. She said she'd finally realized how much I had done for her when we were younger, and she apologized. Sounded sincere, and I appreciated it. We talked for a while, and I left feeling strange. Not angry, but not ready to forgive either. Then, a week later, she called me. Told me she was being evicted from her apartment. Said she and Jacob had nowhere to go. Asked if they could move in with me just for a while, until she got back on her feet. I laughed. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe she had the nerve. I told her no. A hard no. I said, "You already stole my teenage years. You don't get to take my adulthood too." She started crying. Begged me. Said she didn't have anyone else. That I was her brother and Jacob's uncle. That I had a good job and a nice place and could afford to help. I told her again, flat out, that I didn't owe her anything. That I wasn't going to be her safety net again. And I hung up. Later that night, my mom called me, furious. She said I was cold-hearted. That Jacob didn't ask to be born, and I was punishing him for Sarah's mistakes. That I was turning my back on family. I told her she had no right to guilt me. That they all stood by while I was forced to parent a child at 16. That I didn't owe any of them a damn thing. Now some of my extended family is involved. I've gotten messages from cousins, even an aunt, saying Sarah is trying, and I should at least help Jacob. One of them even suggested I pay for a motel for them until Sarah figures something out. I haven't responded to any of them. Part of me wonders if I'm being too harsh. Jacob is innocent in all this, and I know what it's like to be tossed into a life you didn't ask for. But I also know that I gave enough. More than enough. I sacrificed years of my life, and no one cared until they needed something again. So, am I the asshole for refusing to help my sister and her kid after everything that happened? If you listen this far, you probably understand why this story hit deep. If you've ever been the responsible one or carried someone else's weight, you know how heavy it can be. And if you think stories like this deserve to be heard, consider subscribing. One tap makes a huge difference, and we'd love to have you here for the next one. I told my fiancé's mom to back off after she kept calling me not good enough. I never thought I'd be one of those people who dreads seeing their in-laws. I always imagined I'd marry into a kind family that welcomed me with open arms. But when I met my fiancé's mother, things changed fast. At first, I thought she was just overprotective of her only son. Then I realized she didn't just want to protect him. She wanted to control him, and I wasn't going to be part of that plan. It all started the first time I met her. Jacob and I had been dating for a little over a year. He was kind, smart, and emotionally mature. We clicked immediately. He told me he was close with his mom, but also admitted she could be a little overbearing. I didn't think much of it. Every mom has her quirks, right? Wrong. When I met her, she didn't even bother to hide the fact that she didn't like me. She gave me this once-over look like she was scanning for defects. I smiled, complimented her house, tried to strike up conversation, but she answered in short, clipped sentences. When Jacob left the room, she leaned in and said, "You're not really what I pictured for my son." That was the first red flag. I told Jacob about it later, and he was shocked. He apologized profusely and said she'd come around. I believed him. I wanted to believe him, but she never did. In fact, it got worse. Every time we saw her, she made snide comments. At Christmas, she said, "I hope you're not planning on cooking the turkey next year." Jacob's stomach is sensitive. At his birthday dinner, she gave him a gift and said, "I would have bought something for you too, but I wasn't sure what kind of cheap jewelry you'd like." I laughed it off in front of everyone, but inside, I was boiling. Jacob noticed. He'd talk to her after each incident, and she'd deny everything. "You must have misunderstood," she'd say. "I'm just being honest. She's too sensitive." Then came the engagement. Jacob proposed on our anniversary. It was a beautiful moment. Just the two of us, under the stars, on a quiet beach. He cried, felt perfect, until we told his mom. She didn't congratulate us. She looked at the ring and said, "Oh, I thought you'd wait until you found someone more fitting." Then she turned to Jacob and added, "I hope you kept the receipt. That was it for me." I told Jacob that I couldn't keep pretending this was okay. He agreed, but he begged me to let him handle it. He said he'd talk to her again and set some boundaries. He did. She promised she'd try. She didn't. She kept calling me behind Jacob's back, texting me weird messages like, "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" Or, "There's still time to change your mind." I blocked her number. Then she started calling from other numbers, messaging me from fake accounts. I even caught her creating a burner Facebook account to follow my posts and comment subtle jabs. Things like, "Wow, not exactly classy," under a harmless photo of me and my bridesmaids shopping for dresses. I had enough. One afternoon, while Jacob was at work, she showed up at our apartment. I hadn't given her the address. She must have gotten it from Jacob's phone or followed us home once. I opened the door, stunned. "I just want to talk," she said. "No," I replied. "I'm done with the talking." But she pushed past me and walked in. She sat down on the couch like she owned the place. "I'm trying to save my son," she said. "He doesn't know what he's getting into." Something in me snapped. "You think I'm not good enough for him?" I asked. She smirked. "I know you're not." I took a deep breath. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice calm. "Let me tell you something. I love Jacob. He loves me. He chose me, not you. And you've made it your mission to tear me down from the start. I've been patient. I've been respectful. But I will not let you treat me like garbage anymore. You're not protecting him. You're trying to control him. But he's not your little boy anymore. He's a man. And if you can't accept me, then you can stay out of our lives." She stood up, furious. "You'll regret this." "No," I said. "You will. If you don't back off, I'll file a harassment report. I have all your texts and messages saved." She turned and stormed out. That night, I told Jacob everything. Showed him the texts. Played a voicemail she left saying I was poisoning his life. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "We're cutting her off." He meant it. We blocked her. Changed Jacob's phone number. He emailed her a clear boundary. If she ever wanted to be part of our lives again, she'd need therapy and a sincere apology. Otherwise, she was out. It's been 6 months. She hasn't changed. She tried showing up at his work once. Security escorted her out. She tried contacting mutual friends to get to us. No one helped her. Everyone could see how toxic she was. Jacob and I got married last month. Small ceremony. Just our closest friends and my family. No drama. No insults. Just love. After everything, I sometimes wonder, was I too harsh? Was I wrong to tell her off? To threaten legal action? To shut her out? But then I remember the years of torment. The manipulation. The insults. The way she tried to gaslight me, make me feel like I was the problem. No, I wasn't wrong. I was protecting myself. And Jacob was finally protecting himself too. Sometimes, family isn't who raises you, it's who respects you. And I married into the kind of family I always wanted because we built it together. So what do you think? Was I the asshole for telling my fiancé's mom to back off after she kept calling me not good enough? If you've made it this far into the story, you're clearly one of the few who enjoys real, raw storytelling. So if you're not subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. Hit that subscribe button and join us for more true stories that make you think, laugh, and sometimes cry. Let's build this journey together. My wife's brother tried to ruin our marriage, so I made sure he lost everything. It started on a Thursday. That's the day my wife's brother, Dave, came to live with us. My wife, Sarah, had always been close to Dave. He was her younger brother by 4 years, but she often treated him like her own son. Their childhood was rough, with an absent dad and a mother who worked double shifts. So Sarah stepped in and helped raise him. I admired that about her. I really did. But what I didn't admire was how Dave never seemed to grow up. He was 28 and still hadn't held a job for more than 6 months. He bounced between friends' couches, his mom's place, and now our guest bedroom. Just until he gets back on his feet, Sarah promised. I agreed reluctantly. 1 month, tops. That month turned into 3. First, it was little things. He'd eat the last slice of pizza I'd been saving. Use all the hot water. Leave the toilet seat up. Annoying but not criminal. Then came the lies. One night, I came home from work and Sarah was in tears. She wouldn't tell me what happened. Just locked herself in the bedroom. Dave sat in the living room with the smug look on his face. The next day, she finally told me, "Dave said he saw you hugging another woman in your car." I was stunned. "What? That never happened." "He said you were parked outside Starbucks. That you kissed her." I laughed because it was so absurd. I haven't even been to a Starbucks in weeks. Sarah didn't fully believe him, but she didn't fully believe me either. And that hurt. I pulled up my GPS history, showed her where I'd been. Luckily, my work van tracks every stop. I proved I was across town during the supposed incident. She apologized, cried again, told me she just didn't know what to think. I told her she needed to talk to Dave. She did, but nothing changed. That's when I started noticing more subtle sabotage. Dave would accidentally walk into our room without knocking, or he'd leave his laundry in with hers, and suddenly she'd be mad that her favorite blouse got ruined. Then one day he told Sarah I'd made a joke about her weight. That was it. I confronted him. "You're trying to break us up," I said flatly. "What the hell is wrong with you?" He smirked. Maybe she deserves someone who actually listens to her. I almost punched him right there, but I didn't, because I had a better plan. Here's the thing. I'm a software engineer, but I also freelance in cybersecurity. Ethical hacking, specifically. I know how to trace IPs, recover deleted messages, and track online behavior most people think is invisible. So I started digging. Within a week, I had everything. Turns out, Dave had been messaging one of Sarah's friends, pretending to be me. He used a spoofing app to create a fake number, sent flirty texts, tried to arrange meetups, all to make it look like I was cheating. He even created a fake Instagram account with my photo and followed a bunch of women, leaving sleazy comments. I gathered all the evidence, screenshots, metadata, logs. I packaged it into a neat PDF and emailed it to Sarah. I'll never forget the look on her face when she read it all. She went white, then red, then stormed into the guest room where Dave was lounging on our couch. The screaming match was epic. I didn't intervene. She kicked him out that night. He tried to protest, begged, even cried, but she was done. And so was I, but not with him. I sent the same packet of evidence to his current job. He'd been working remotely for a small tech company under probation. I also sent it to his ex-girlfriend, who'd once filed a restraining order against him. Turns out, he'd violated it by texting her a month ago. 2 days later, he was unemployed and dealing with cops at his door. Was that petty? Maybe. Was it justified? Hell yes. Now it's been 6 months. Sarah and I are in therapy, working through everything. Trust takes time to rebuild. But we're stronger now, and she finally sees Dave for who he really is. Sometimes, the real assholes are the ones hiding behind a smile, living in your guest room. Don't wait too long to open the door and show them out. If you've ever had someone try to poison your relationship from the inside, share your story. And if this one hit home, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what's coming next. My wife found out I secretly helped her estranged sister. Now she thinks I'm the asshole. I never thought something so simple could blow up my marriage. I've always believed that doing the right thing mattered, even if it wasn't the easy thing. But now, I'm sitting alone in my car, staring at the driveway, unsure if I should walk back into my own house. My wife thinks I betrayed her. Maybe I did, but not in the way she thinks. Let me back up. My wife, Lauren, and I have been married for 8 years. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue, and I was immediately pulled in by her warmth. She had this glow about her. Kind, clever, funny. Everything I ever wanted in a partner. We clicked fast and married within a year. I don't regret that for a second. Not even now. Early in our relationship, Lauren told me she had a younger sister, Ellie, but she made it clear they were no longer in contact. She'd drop hints here and there about how Ellie was irresponsible, a liar, and manipulative. Lauren said she had gone no contact with her years ago and never wanted to hear her name again. I respected that. I didn't ask questions until Ellie showed up at my office. I work in real estate, mid-size agency, not flashy, but enough to make ends meet and then some. One Thursday afternoon, my assistant knocked on my door and told me there was a woman asking for me. Said it was important, family-related. When I walked out to the lobby, I nearly did a double-take. The resemblance was uncanny. Ellie had Lauren's eyes. Same sharp nose, same hair, but darker and tied back in a messy bun. She looked tired, hungry maybe. Her clothes were worn but clean. She stood up when she saw me and immediately said, "Please don't tell Lauren I came." I didn't know what to say. We went to a coffee shop across the street. She explained everything. Ellie had been living in another state for the past few years, trying to get her life together. She admitted to messing up in the past. Some bad relationships, a DUI, borrowing money and never paying it back. But she was clean now, working part-time at a grocery store, going to therapy, living in a women's shelter to save money. She looked ashamed when she said it. "I don't want anything from Lauren," she said. "I just want to know she's okay. That's all. I miss her." I believed her. Maybe I'm gullible. Maybe I'm too soft-hearted. But I saw someone who was trying, genuinely trying. And something in me, maybe the brother I never had, felt compelled to help. So I did. Without telling Lauren, I started meeting Ellie once every week, just to check in. Brought her groceries a few times. Got her in touch with a friend of mine who runs a bakery and needed weekend help. I even gave her an old laptop we had sitting around. Nothing major. Nothing that even cost me much. But it mattered to her. I could see it. I kept telling myself I'd tell Lauren eventually. That I'd wait for the right moment. That I'd explain everything. But the truth is, I was scared. Scared she'd see it as a betrayal. Scared she'd think I picked sides. Turns out I didn't need to tell her. Because she found out. It was a Saturday. Lauren was in the kitchen making pancakes when she noticed a message on my phone. Ellie had texted, "Thanks again for the ride. The bakery job is going great." Smiley face. Lauren read it. Her face went pale. She didn't scream, didn't cry. She just looked at me and asked, "How long?" I stuttered. Said something like, "It's not what you think," but it was. She knew. We argued for hours. She said I violated her trust. That I didn't understand how toxic Ellie was. That there were things I didn't know. Things Ellie had done to her when they were younger. Lauren never went into detail, but she said, "You have no idea how many times I forgave her, and she always burned me." I tried to explain. Told her Ellie wasn't asking for forgiveness. She wasn't asking for anything. Just acknowledgement. A second chance. Lauren wouldn't hear it. She packed a bag that night and left to stay with her friend. She hasn't been back since.
Eva texted.
Called. No response. Now I'm here, sitting in this car, wondering if I blew up my marriage trying to do the right thing. Was I the asshole? Because here's the thing. I didn't do it for Ellie. I did it for Lauren. I thought that maybe, just maybe, if her sister really had changed, then someday Lauren wouldn't have to carry that weight anymore. That pain. I wanted to make it easier for her, not harder. But maybe that wasn't my call to make. Maybe, despite my intentions, I crossed a line. One I didn't fully understand. I don't know what's going to happen now. I haven't heard from either of them in days. I keep replaying it all in my head, wondering what I could have done differently. Maybe the answer's obvious to everyone else but me. Still, I can't shake the feeling that there's more to the story, more than what Lauren told me, more than what Ellie showed me, and I'm stuck in the middle, unsure who to believe, unsure if trying to help makes me a bad husband. All I know is that I tried. If you found this story gripping, relatable, or even just thought-provoking, hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more real, raw stories that'll make you question everything, and trust me, you won't want to miss the next one. Am I the asshole for exposing my brother's dark secret at his wedding? I never wanted to ruin anyone's life, especially not my brother's. But sometimes, the truth has a way of clawing its way to the surface, no matter how deeply it's buried. And when it finally does, you're left standing there, wondering if silence would have been better. I've replayed that night 1,000 times in my head. The music, the speeches, the cheers, and the moment I dropped the bomb that shattered everything. So here's my story. Judge me if you want. I still don't know if I did the right thing. My name's Kayla. I'm 29, and my brother Ryan is 32. We've always had a complicated relationship. Not exactly close, but not distant either. Ryan was the golden boy growing up. Straight A's, popular, athletic, you name it. I was the artsy, awkward one who stayed in the background. Our parents adored him, and I was there. It wasn't resentment, not exactly, but it did sting sometimes to be invisible in your own family. Ryan met his fiancée, Emily, 3 years ago. She's the sweetest person I've ever met. The kind of person who remembers birthdays, checks in when you're sick, and makes you feel like you matter. When she and Ryan got engaged, I was genuinely happy for them. She deserved happiness, and maybe Ryan had grown into someone who could give that to her. Maybe he wasn't the arrogant jerk who used to call me a loser in high school. Then, 6 months before the wedding, I found out the truth. I was at a bar with some friends when I saw Ryan in the corner booth. At first, I was going to go say hi, but then I saw who he was with. Not Emily. It was another woman, and they weren't just talking. They were kissing, intimately, like they'd done it 100 times before. I froze. My first instinct was denial. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe I saw wrong. But when he pulled back, grinning that cocky grin I remembered all too well, there was no mistaking it. That was my brother, and he was cheating. I considered telling Emily privately. I almost did, but every time I tried, I lost my nerve. She was so excited, so happy. I didn't want to be the one to break her heart. So instead, I did the unthinkable. At the wedding reception, after the toasts and the dances, I asked for the microphone. My hands were shaking. My throat was dry, but I did it. "I'm sorry to interrupt," I began, smiling nervously. "But I have something I need to say." Ryan's face went pale. He knew. "I love you, Emily," I said. "You've always treated me like a sister, which is why I can't let this go on. Ryan has been cheating on you for over a year with a woman named Mia." Gasped. Murmurs. Emily's face crumbled. Ryan jumped up, shouting that I was lying, that I was jealous. But then Mia stepped forward. She had come. She stood up and confirmed everything. The reception descended into chaos. Emily ran out in tears. Ryan tried to chase after her but was blocked by her friends. Our parents were horrified. Guests started leaving. The dream wedding was officially ruined. And I was left standing there, wondering what the hell I had just done. In the days that followed, everyone had an opinion. My parents were furious with me, said I should have come to them or Emily privately. Ryan called me every name in the book. Even some of Emily's friends said I had gone too far. But Emily, she thanked me, quietly, tearfully. She said she was glad she knew before signing her life away, that she would have been trapped in a lie. She moved out. The marriage was annulled. Ryan's reputation took a hit, but he bounced back eventually. He always does. As for me, I'm still torn. I didn't do it for revenge. I did it because I couldn't stomach the idea of a woman I cared about being deceived like that. But I also know that weddings are sacred. Maybe there was a better time, a better way. So, was I the asshole? If the story had you hooked, just imagine what's coming next. Subscribe now so you never miss wild story. Am I the asshole for locking my brother out of our family cabin? Growing up, our family cabin was my favorite place in the world. Nestled by a quiet lake in upstate New York, it had this magical stillness, especially in the fall when the leaves turned gold and crimson. My parents built it before I was born, and every summer we'd spend weeks there. It was where I learned to swim, fish, and have my first beer in secret with my older brother, Mason. Mason and I were close as kids, but as we grew older, something shifted. Maybe it was the 4-year age gap, or maybe it was how differently we responded to our parents' expectations. He was the golden child, charming, athletic, and effortlessly social. I, on the other hand, was quieter, more academic. Still, we got along, until our parents passed. Dad died first, sudden heart attack, and Mom followed 3 years later after a long, painful battle with cancer. In her will, she left the cabin to both Mason and me. We were to share it equally, sell it only if we both agreed. I wanted to keep it, preserve the memories. Mason didn't seem to care much back then, or at least that's what he said. After Mom's funeral, Mason vanished for a while, traveled, burned through his savings, got involved with shady business ventures. I meanwhile kept the cabin maintained. I paid for the repairs, taxes, everything. It became my sanctuary, the only place I felt close to my parents. Mason never offered to help, and he never visited. Not once in 6 years. Then, out of nowhere, he called me last month. "Hey, I'm coming up to the cabin," he said, like it was his right. I was shocked. "You mean for a visit?" "No, I mean I'm moving in. Temporarily. Just for a few weeks. I need some space, man." Apparently, he'd gone through a messy breakup and wanted to reconnect with his roots. My gut told me something was off, but what could I say? He was a co-owner. I didn't love the idea, but I agreed reluctantly. From the moment he arrived, everything went downhill. He showed up with 2 duffel bags, a case of beer, and some girl named Jasmine who barely said a word to me. He didn't ask where to sleep. He just took our parents' old room, the one I kept clean and untouched. He left dirty dishes in the sink, blared music till 2 a.m., and smoked on the porch even though the whole place was a fire hazard. I tried talking to him calmly at first. "Mason, this place means a lot to me. Could you at least try to keep it clean?" He rolled his eyes. "Relax. It's not a museum." The last straw came when I returned one afternoon from a hike to find him hosting a party. 8 people, none of whom I knew, were lounging around drinking, swimming naked in the lake, and blasting music. One guy even puked on the rug in the living room. I snapped, told everyone to leave. Mason laughed in my face. "This place isn't just yours, bro. You don't get to make the rules." That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed up thinking about everything. The money I poured into the cabin, the years I'd spent cherishing every memory. Mason hadn't contributed a dime, didn't even care until he needed a crash pad. So the next morning, I changed the locks. I knew he was out getting breakfast because Jasmine had mentioned they were heading into town. I replaced the locks, bolted the windows, and waited. When he came back and realized what I'd done, he lost it. "You're a psycho," he screamed, pounding on the door. I stayed inside, calmly told him through the door that I'd be happy to talk about joint usage, but only if he started respecting the place and agreed to split costs moving forward. Otherwise, he could take me to court. He stormed off. The next day, I got a call from our cousin Julia. Apparently, Mason had been crashing on her couch and telling everyone I'd lost my mind, claiming I was trying to steal his inheritance. Now the whole family is divided. Some say I was within my rights. I maintained the place, paid for everything, and he disrespected it. Others say I took it too far by locking him out of something he legally owns. But here's what no one understands. This cabin isn't just a building to me. It's the last piece of my parents I have left. And Mason treated it like a frat house. So, am I the asshole for locking my brother out? If you're still here, it means the story meant something to you, just like this channel does to me. So before you scroll away, hit that subscribe button. It'll help us keep sharing stories that stick with you long after they're over. Thanks for being part of this. More coming soon. Was I the asshole for cutting off my mom after what she did at my wedding? If you had asked anyone a year ago, they would have said my mom and I were close. Maybe not best friends close, but she was in my life. We talked weekly, sometimes daily. She'd visit me often, and I tried to be a good daughter despite the rocky parts of our history. But after what happened at my wedding, I've had to reevaluate everything, and now I'm sitting here wondering, was I truly the asshole for cutting her off completely? Let me back up and give you the full picture. I, 27F, got married this past June to my husband, Aaron, 29M, after being together for 5 years. Our wedding was a relatively small affair, about 80 guests, close family and friends only. We didn't want anything extravagant, just meaningful, something personal. That meant no big ballroom, no over-the-top themes. We chose a peaceful vineyard 2 hours outside the city, the kind of place where everything feels like a quiet, perfect dream. Except it wasn't, because of my mom. Growing up, my mom, let's call her Denise, was complicated. Loving, yes, but controlling. She was the kind of person who needed to have her hands in everything, from how I dressed as a kid to who I was allowed to date. She wasn't abusive, but manipulative in subtle, corrosive ways. She'd cry if I didn't call enough, guilt-trip me if I spent more holidays with my dad. They divorced when I was 9, and always managed to insert herself into any milestone of my life like it was her own. When I got engaged, Denise was thrilled at first, but it didn't take long for her to start making the wedding about her. She insisted on being included in every decision. Venue, guest list, flowers, even the food. She hated that Aaron's mother was involved too. She accused her of trying to take over, and called me crying more than once, saying I was pushing her out. I tried to manage it. I really did. I gave her more control than I was comfortable with. Let her help with the floral arrangements. Let her pick out the song for our mother-daughter dance, even though I had a different one in mind. I even agreed to wear a veil she picked out, which I didn't like, just to keep the peace. But she wasn't happy. Not really. She wanted more. 2 weeks before the wedding, she told me she wanted to wear white. A white lace gown that looked almost like a wedding dress. I was stunned. I told her absolutely not. She cried, told me I was selfish, said she never got the wedding she wanted when she married my dad, and this was her chance to feel beautiful like a bride. I thought we'd settled it when I stood firm and said no, but I should have known better. The day of the wedding, everything started off perfectly. I was nervous but happy. Aaron looked so handsome I could hardly stop smiling. The ceremony space was stunning, flowers blooming, the summer sun gently warming the vineyard. Guests were arriving, taking their seats. Then I saw her. Denise walked into the venue wearing the white dress. Not just white, but a full-length gown with lace and a modest train. My stomach dropped. It was worse than I imagined. People turned to stare. Some whispered. I could hear my aunt gasp. I froze. I literally couldn't speak for a second. My maid of honor, Jess, asked if I wanted her to say something. I told her no. Maybe if I ignored it, it would just be a blip. I didn't want to cause drama. I didn't want to have a breakdown on my own wedding day. I convinced myself I could rise above it, that it didn't matter, but it did. Because when the music started and I was walking down the aisle, I saw the look on people's faces. Not looking at me, the bride, but flicking their eyes back at my mother, like they didn't know where to look, like there were two brides. She smiled like she owned the place. Aaron later told me he thought it was some kind of prank at first. Then he saw the pain on my face and knew it wasn't. I tried to stay composed. I got through the vows, the kiss, the cheers, but the whole time I felt like I was holding back a scream. At the reception, I finally confronted her. Quietly, pulled her aside and asked, "Why? Why did you do this?" Her response? She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're so dramatic. Nobody's looking at me. You always make everything about you." I walked away. I didn't say another word to her the rest of the night. After the honeymoon, I sent her a message. I told her how humiliated I felt, how selfish and cruel her behavior had been, that I needed space. She responded with a half-hearted apology, saying I was overreacting and that people would forget it anyway. She said she wouldn't apologize again. So I blocked her. Phone, social media, email, everything. It's been 3 months. My aunt says she cries every day, telling people I abandoned her. My cousins think I'm being harsh. Some friends say it's just a dress, that I shouldn't have let it ruin such a beautiful day. But it wasn't just a dress. It was everything leading up to it. Everything she did over the years. The manipulation. The need to dominate every moment of my life. Erin supports me, says this might be the healthiest boundary I've ever set. But part of me still wonders, am I really the asshole for cutting off my own mom? If the story had you feeling something, anger, shock, even just curiosity, then imagine what's next. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss the stories. Am I the asshole for cutting off my entire family after what they did at my wedding? I've been debating for months whether to share this, but I think it's finally time. Maybe getting it all out will help me make peace with my decision. This is going to be long, so buckle in. I, 28F, got married to my husband James, 30M, 9 months ago. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, it ended up being the event that completely shattered whatever remnants of trust one had left in my family. For some context, I come from a very tight-knit, conservative family. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings, and growing up, everything was about appearances and family loyalty. My parents had very specific ideas of what a perfect daughter looked like. Quiet, obedient, religious, and eager to marry someone from our community. I was none of those things. By the time I was 21, I had already moved out, gone to college across the country, and started dating James, who is everything my parents dislike. He's not religious, he comes from a liberal background, and he works in the arts. But he's kind, supportive, and he's been there for me through everything. For years, my relationship with my parents and siblings has been strained. We'd talk occasionally, mostly surface-level things. When James proposed, I almost didn't invite my family. But I thought maybe this would be a turning point, a chance to reconcile. I was wrong. We decided on a small but elegant wedding in a vineyard upstate. About 100 guests, mostly friends, some extended family, and yes, I did invite my parents and siblings. They RSVP'd yes. There were some snide remarks in the months leading up, like how I was playing house or how a real wedding would be in church. I ignored them. I just wanted peace. Fast forward to the wedding day. Everything was beautiful. The ceremony started at 4 p.m. My parents and siblings didn't show. No call, no text. I was heartbroken, but I figured maybe they were late. But they never arrived. At the reception, around 7 p.m., I finally got a text from my younger sister. "We won't be coming. Dad says he won't watch you throw your life away." That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just that. I lost it. I spent a good part of my reception crying in the bridal suite. James was furious. My best friend tried to calm me down and reminded me that this was still my day, that the people who loved me were there. So I pulled myself together, went back out, and tried to enjoy what I could. But it wasn't the same. The next day, I sent a message to the family group chat. "Your absence yesterday was noted. Don't expect to be part of my life moving forward. I'm done." And I meant it. Since then, they've tried to contact me multiple times. My mom sent long emails about how I was being dramatic, how they were just trying to protect me, how they didn't want to endorse sin. My dad wrote a single sentence: "You chose your path. My siblings are split." One of my brothers apologized and said he was just following orders. My sister says I overreacted and should move on already. Here's where it gets complicated. My aunt, Dad's sister, reached out recently and said my parents are devastated. She said they cried for days after the wedding and that they just didn't know how to handle me marrying someone outside the faith. She begged me to forgive them and try to understand their perspective. She also dropped a bomb. My parents are now going around telling the extended family that I uninvited them, that I told them not to come because I was embarrassed by them. When I confronted them about this, my dad doubled down. "You left us long before the wedding. We were just respecting that." I'm so tired. James has been supportive, but even he started to ask if maybe I should just try to talk to them just once. Not to reconcile, but for closure. But I don't think I want that. I think I'm finally at peace without them. Still, there's this guilt that gnaws at me. My whole life, I was conditioned to believe that family is everything. That no matter what, you stick together. That blood is thicker. But what if that blood poisons you? Am I the asshole for cutting them off? For refusing to engage, even when they say they want to make things right? Or am I finally doing the right thing for myself? You've made it this far, and if this story resonated with you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us share more real, emotional stories like this one. Thanks for listening. Am I the asshole for telling my wife she's not the only one who suffers in this marriage? This might be one of the toughest things I've had to do, sharing this here. I honestly never thought I'd be in this situation where I'm questioning my actions so much. I just need some outside perspective because, at this point, it feels like I'm in too deep, and I can't even tell if what I did was wrong anymore. I, 34M, have been married to my wife, Allison, 31F, for 6 years now. We don't have kids, but we've talked about starting a family for a couple of years now. I work as a financial analyst, and my wife is a pediatric nurse. We're both busy with our careers, but we make it work. I thought we had a pretty strong relationship. We went through the typical ups and downs, but we communicated well. Or at least I thought we did. A year ago, things started to shift. Allison became increasingly unhappy with her job. She would come home from work exhausted and complain constantly about the stress and emotional toll it took on her. I tried to be supportive. I listened. I comforted her. I even tried to help by taking on extra household responsibilities so she could relax and unwind when she got home. But no matter how much I tried, it felt like nothing was enough for her. She kept saying I didn't understand how hard her job was, how I couldn't possibly know what it's like to be in her shoes. She would get frustrated with me when I wasn't able to give the right kind of support. Felt like I was walking on eggshells all the time. The turning point came about 6 months ago. We had a pretty big argument. She came home from work, visibly upset. I immediately asked her what was wrong, and she snapped at me. "You wouldn't understand," she said. "You never do." That stung. I tried to reassure her, but it was like talking to a wall. She went on about how I couldn't possibly know the pain she was in because, as a nurse, she deals with sick children every day, and that was more difficult than any stress I could face in my job. I get it. Her job is emotionally taxing. I'm sure being around sick kids and their families all day is heartbreaking. But here's the thing. I've had my share of stress too. My job is demanding and I work long hours. I'm under pressure every day to make deadlines, keep clients happy, and contribute to the financial success of my company. But for some reason, that didn't matter to her. She couldn't seem to comprehend that I was also suffering. Finally, I snapped. I told her, "I know your job is hard, but you're not the only one who suffers. My job is difficult too. Just because it's different doesn't mean it's easier. You think I don't deal with pressure? You think I don't have moments where I feel like I'm drowning?" Allison went quiet after that. She stared at me like I had slapped her. Then she walked out of the room. The next couple of days were tense. She was distant and we barely spoke. When she finally came back to me, she told me that she needed some time to process everything, that she didn't know how to deal with what I had said. I tried to apologize. I tried to explain that I didn't mean to invalidate her feelings, but that I needed her to understand that I was struggling too. But she just cried. A lot. Now we're at a standstill. She still hasn't forgiven me, and I feel like I can't move on either. I know I messed up by telling her that her suffering wasn't special, but at the same time, I feel like she never acknowledged my struggles. I'm stuck in this weird limbo where I'm not sure how to fix things, and I feel like we're growing further apart instead of closer. So, am I the asshole for telling her she's not the only one who suffers in this marriage? If you made it this far, then you're clearly invested in hearing the whole story. And trust me, there are so many more just like it. So hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. The most compelling stories are yet to come. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my mom move in after years of no contact? I hadn't spoken to my mom in almost 15 years. Not because I hated her or anything, but because she walked out of my life when I was just a kid, and she never looked back. Let me back up. My name's Jake. I'm 29 now, and I live in Colorado. Grew up mostly with my dad after my mom left when I was 10. No warning, No explanation. One day, she tucked me into bed, kissed my forehead, and the next morning, she was just gone. My dad said she left a note, but I never saw it. Just that she needed time. Time turned into years. She didn't show up for birthdays, graduations, nothing. First, I waited. Every day for weeks. I ran to the mailbox like an idiot, hoping for a letter. But nothing ever came. After a while, I stopped hoping. My dad stepped up. He wasn't perfect, but he tried his best. He worked double shifts, made sure I had what I needed, even though I could see it was wearing him down. High school was rough. I wasn't a great student, acted out a lot, and honestly, I was angry. Angry at her. Angry at the fact that she could just vanish and expect everything to go on like normal. But with time, I learned to live without her. Fast forward to now, I'm doing okay. I'm a software engineer, own a small home, got a good life going. No kids, not married, but I have a solid group of friends. Life isn't perfect, but it's mine, and I built it without her. So imagine my surprise when 3 weeks ago, I get a Facebook message from a woman named Linda. That's her name. I stared at it for a good 10 minutes before opening it. Her message was short. Hi Jake, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I need your help. I'm sick, and I don't have anyone else. Can we talk? I didn't reply right away. Took me 2 days. Finally, I wrote back, why now? Her response came within an hour. Because I'm dying. I have stage 4 breast cancer. No one else will take me. I have nowhere to go. I thought maybe we could talk. Please. I didn't know what to think. I talked to my dad, who, by the way, had remarried a few years after she left. He was supportive but didn't push me. Whatever you decide, he said, just make sure you can live with it. After a week of back and forth, I agreed to meet her. We met at a coffee shop. I almost didn't recognize her. She looked so different. Thinner, weaker. She started crying the second she saw me. I didn't cry. She said she was sorry. That leaving me was the worst decision of her life, that she was going through a breakdown back then and didn't know how to ask for help. She begged me to let her stay with me while she went through treatment. Here's the thing. I wanted to forgive her. I did. Some part of me still wished she could be my mom. But I didn't know this woman. She was a stranger. I told her I needed time to think. And for a week I wrestled with it. Would letting her stay be the right thing? Or would I just be letting her hurt me all over again? I called my half-sister, Emma, my dad's daughter with his second wife. She's 21. She told me, you don't owe her anything, Jake. Not your house, not your time. She chose to walk away. I called my best friend, Marcus. He said, if you let her stay, make sure it's for you, not out of guilt. Because once she's in, it's going to be hard to get her out. So I called her again. I told her no. I told her I was sorry she was sick, and I could help her look for local shelters or hospice care. But she couldn't stay with me. She cried. She told me I was heartless, that I was punishing her for a mistake she made decades ago, that she was dying and just wanted to be with her son. I hung up. The guilt hit fast. The next day, I got a call from my aunt, her sister, who said I was a selfish bastard, that family helps family, that my mom had always loved me. She just didn't know how to be a mom. That's when I lost it. I told her she had no idea what it was like to be a 10-year-old waiting at the window for someone who never came, to sit through school plays and graduation and watch everyone else's mom clap from the audience while I stared at an empty seat. I told her they all had their chance to reach out. None of them did. Now, I'm sitting here, wondering, am I the asshole for not letting my mom move in when she's sick and has no one else? Comments from Reddit-style friends. Commenter 1. No, you're not the asshole. She abandoned you. She doesn't get to waltz back into your life now that she needs something. You offered help in finding care. That's more than a lot of people would have done. Commenter 2. NTA. This is about boundaries. You're allowed to protect your peace, especially from someone who's already hurt you. Commenter 3. Slightly ESH, everyone sucks here. I get where you're coming from, but maybe this was her way of trying to make amends. Doesn't mean you had to let her in, but I hope you gave her a real chance to explain. Commenter 4. NTA. She made her choice. You're making yours. You don't owe her your home. Commenter 5, NTA, and good on you for standing your ground. It's incredibly difficult to say no in situations like this, especially when guilt is being used against you. But you made your decision based on your well-being. That's what matters. My final thoughts. I think about her sometimes. Wonder if she's okay. Wonder if I made the right call. I still don't know. But I do know this, my peace matters. My life matters. And I don't want to open old wounds just because someone else is hurting. If you felt this story, if it kept you hooked and made you feel something, then you're exactly the kind of person I'd love to have on this journey. Subscribe to the channel for more real, emotional stories like this, where every decision comes with a cost and every voice matters. Let's keep sharing what others are afraid to say. I told my wife's family the truth about her secret, and now they've disowned her. My wife has always been good at hiding things. I think that's the part that makes this whole thing so disturbing. Not just what she did, but how she managed to keep it under wraps for so long. I used to admire how calm and composed she could be under pressure. Now, that calmness haunts me, because behind that quiet was a level of deception I never imagined I'd have to face in my own marriage. This all started 6 months ago, though I didn't know it at the time. What I did know was that something was off. I couldn't put my finger on it, but my wife, let's call her Emily, had started behaving differently. She was more irritable, spending longer hours away from home, claiming work deadlines. She stopped leaving her phone out like she used to, now keeping it locked and always within reach. She used to show me funny texts from her sister, pictures of our niece, silly memes. That completely stopped. At first, I chalked it up to stress. We both had demanding jobs. We were trying to save for a house, planning to start a family. I didn't want to be the paranoid husband, but I started noticing things. Receipts from restaurants I'd never been to, new lingerie I hadn't seen her wear at home, her perfume changing. I'm not proud to admit it, but I did look through her laptop one night while she was asleep. It was a last resort. What I found didn't just confirm my suspicions, it blew them wide open. There were emails, dozens, between her and someone named Mark. And they weren't just flirty, they were intimate, sexual, romantic. They talked about trips they'd taken, hotels they'd stayed at. There were mentions of me too mocking, dismissive. She called me boring, predictable, said she felt trapped in our marriage. I was stunned. I didn't confront her right away. I needed to understand how deep this went. Who was this guy? How long had this been going on? I dug further. Social media, phone records, bank statements. What I uncovered was a full-blown affair that had been going on for nearly 2 years. Mark was someone she met at work. They'd been sneaking around since before our second wedding anniversary. They'd taken trips I thought she was taking with her mom. She had a separate bank account I didn't know about where she was stashing money for what I wasn't sure. When I finally confronted her, she denied it at first. Classic gaslighting. You're crazy. You're being paranoid. That's just a friend from work. But when I showed her the emails, the screenshots, the receipts, she broke down, cried, begged me not to leave her, swore it was over, said she made a mistake. But then she did something unexpected. She tried to turn it on me. If you hadn't been so focused on work, if you were more exciting, if you had paid more attention to me, that's when I snapped. I told her this wasn't a mistake. A mistake is a one-night stand, not a 2-year relationship hidden behind lies and manipulation. I packed a bag and left. For 2 weeks, I stayed with my brother. Emily begged me to come home to talk. She showed up at my work, texted constantly. I didn't respond. I needed space and clarity. Then I got a call from her sister, Rachel. Rachel was close with Emily, but we'd always gotten along well. She sounded worried, said Emily was falling apart. I told her bluntly that Emily had cheated. Rachel was shocked. She said Emily told the family I'd had a breakdown and left suddenly, and that I was taking time for my mental health. That's when I lost it. Emily didn't just cheat. She rewrote the narrative and turned me into the villain. Her parents reached out next, worried about me. When I told them the truth, they were stunned. Her father said, "That doesn't sound like the Emily we know." I forwarded him the emails, the evidence, everything. That's when things exploded. Her family confronted her. Emily doubled down at first, claiming I was manipulating things, taking things out of context. But the evidence was overwhelming. Eventually, she broke. Admitted it. Her parents were furious. Her sister was devastated. They felt betrayed, lied to, manipulated. Emily was disowned. They told her they couldn't support someone who could be so deceitful, not just to me, but to them. Her mother said, "If you can lie to the person you're supposed to love most, how do we trust you?" Emily blamed me for that, too. She said I was petty for dragging her family into our personal issues, that I had ruined her life out of revenge. Now, here's where things get complicated. Some of my friends think I went too far, that I should have just left quietly, that airing her dirty laundry to her family was vindictive. But I don't see it that way. She lied to everyone. She painted me as unstable, fragile, broken, to protect her own reputation. She destroyed our marriage, then tried to spin it like I was the problem. I didn't go to her family out of spite. I went because I was tired of being made into the villain. Now she lives alone. Her job found out about the affair too, since Mark was a superior. HR got involved. Mark was fired. Emily was reassigned. She called me recently, crying, asking if there's any chance we could try again. I said no. I don't hate her. I don't wish her ill. But trust is like glass. Once it's shattered, you can't put it back together without seeing all the cracks. And in her case, the glass was stomped into dust. So now I ask you all, am I the asshole for telling her family the truth? If you've made it this far, it means the story pulled you in just like we hoped. For more gripping, emotional, and binge-worthy stories like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us keep these stories coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's next. It felt like the one bright light in a very dark tunnel. Months passed. I started therapy, got back into a routine. The pain dulled slightly, but I realized I hadn't heard much about the scholarship. When I asked my mom how it was going, she was vague. "Oh, I'm still working with the school. There's some red tape. Don't worry, it's in good hands." I didn't push. I trusted her. Until one night, while visiting her house, I used her laptop to look something up, and an email popped up. It was a banking notification, one I recognized from the foundation account we'd created. Out of curiosity, I opened the banking portal. I wish I hadn't. The account had less than $3,000 in it. I stared at the screen for a long time, thinking maybe I was in the wrong place. Maybe this wasn't the Memorial Fund account, but it was. Same account number I'd helped set up. Same title, Natalie Parker Memorial Fund. There had been dozens of transfers, all small enough to avoid flags. $500 here, $300 there. All sent to my mom's personal checking account. And they started just a week after the donations came in. I felt sick, physically sick. My ears were ringing. My hands were shaking. I checked the timestamps, the balance over time, everything. Out of the $75,000 plus we'd raised, only about $2,850 remained. I confronted her that night. She tried to laugh it off at first, said she was just borrowing some of it temporarily, claimed she was going to put it back once things stabilized. I asked her what things. She admitted she'd fallen behind on her mortgage, had some credit card debt, needed to float some cash, said she assumed I wouldn't mind because it was just sitting there. I lost it. I told her it wasn't just money. It was Natalie's legacy. Money people had donated in her memory, not to pay off a mortgage, not to keep up appearances at church, but to help future nurses like Natalie had wanted. Her response? "You always overreact. You're still emotional from losing Natalie." I didn't speak to her for weeks after that. Then came the family dinner. It was my aunt's birthday, and my mom begged me to come. Said she wanted to make things right. Reluctantly, I agreed, part of me hoping she'd apologize, own up, maybe even return the money. But instead, at the dinner table in front of my extended family, she made a toast about how proud she was to have helped launch the Natalie Parker Memorial Scholarship. She said the first student would be awarded this summer. A complete lie. Everyone clapped. My cousin cried. People patted her on the back. I snapped. Right there at the table, I told everyone the truth. That there was no scholarship. That my mom had drained almost every cent from the fund. That she used my dead wife's name to pay off her debt and make herself look like a saint. The room went dead silent. My mom started crying. Said I was twisting things. That I was grieving wrong. My uncle asked her directly if it was true. She admitted some of it. Then tried to spin it as me being unstable and too angry. But no one was buying it. Not anymore. Later that night, my cousin, who's a lawyer, helped me report the theft. We contacted the GoFundMe platform, froze the bank account, and are in the process of pressing charges. It's slow and complicated, but it's happening. My mom's furious. Says I humiliated her. That I've destroyed the family. My sister is torn. She agrees what mom did was wrong, but thinks I shouldn't have exposed her like that. That I ruined a birthday dinner and made things unforgivably public. I've lost half my family over this, but I don't feel guilty. I feel heartbroken that my own mother, the woman who comforted me at my wife's funeral, could do something so vile, then lie about it with a straight face. All I wanted was to honor Natalie. Instead, I ended up uncovering a betrayal that felt like losing her all over again. So now I ask, am I the asshole for exposing my mom at a family dinner instead of handling it privately? If you're still here, that means the story resonated. We post real, emotional, high-stakes stories like this every week, and they only get better. So hit that subscribe button now and stay with us for the next unforgettable ride. One night, around 11 p.m., I woke up and realized Melissa wasn't in bed. I checked the house. No sign of her. Her car was gone. No note. No text. Panicked. Called her phone, no answer. Then I opened our family location sharing app. She had disabled it. I didn't sleep that night. She came back around 3 a.m., said she was overwhelmed and just needed space. That she'd driven to the lake to clear her head. I wanted to believe her, but I didn't. So I did something I never imagined I'd do. I bought a small audio recorder. One of those tiny ones that fits in your palm. I wasn't looking to catch her doing something wrong. I just wanted clarity. Something. Anything. Melissa's younger sister, Jordan, is her best friend. They talk daily. One Saturday, Jordan came over while I was out running errands. In reality, I left the recorder hidden behind the living room bookshelf, voice activated. I felt like a monster doing it. But when I listened to the recording that night, my world shattered. Melissa told Jordan everything. Every detail. She'd been having an affair with a fellow teacher, a married man, for over 6 months. Worse, she said she didn't regret it. He makes me feel seen, she told her sister. With Caleb, I feel stuck, like we're just roommates playing house. Jordan tried to talk her down, told her to come clean, to think about the vows she made. But Melissa just laughed. It's not like I'm leaving Caleb tomorrow, she said. He's stable, reliable. I need that too. That word, need, it broke something in me. She wasn't staying out of love. She was staying out of convenience. For the next few days, I didn't confront her. Couldn't. I needed to think, to plan. I spoke to a divorce attorney, quietly withdrew half of our shared savings. Booked a session with a therapist, mostly to hold myself together. Then, I came up with an idea, one I'm still not sure was right. Melissa's birthday was coming up. Her 33rd. She wanted a small party at our house, just family and a few close friends. I agreed, helped her clean the house, smiled, acted normal, and then, at the party right after we sang Happy Birthday, I connected my phone to our living room speaker. Everyone was smiling. Melissa looked radiant. She kissed me on the cheek. That's when I hit play. It took a second for everyone to realize what they were hearing. Melissa's voice, Jordan's, a casual conversation at first. Then the tone changed. People went quiet. Melissa started to pale. And then the words hit. Her confession, the affair, her laughter, her saying I was just stable. Nothing more. Her parents looked horrified. My mom gasped. Jordan's eyes filled with tears. She hadn't known I recorded them. Melissa lunged for the speaker, yanked the cord out. The room sat in stunned silence. Then she looked at me and said, "How could you?" I stared at her. "How could you?" She stormed out. Half the guests followed. Others just stood awkwardly before trickling away. I stayed, finished my drink, sat on the couch, staring at the cake. It was lemon, her favorite. I'd made it from scratch. In the following weeks, things moved fast. She begged me not to divorce her at first, said it was a mistake, that the recording was private and I had no right. But when I told her I'd already filed, she switched tactics, got cold, blamed me for public humiliation, claimed I'd ruined her reputation. Jordan apologized to me, said she never imagined her sister would go that far, or that I'd find out the way I did. She's since taken my side completely. Friends are divided. Some say I went too far. Others say she deserved it. Truth is, I don't know if what I did was right. I don't know if exposing her like that on her birthday made me an asshole. But I do know this. She played me for 6 months, lied to my face, took my stability, my love, and used it as a stepping stone to have her fun while I planned our future. So I made sure the truth was heard, even if it was ugly, even if it burned everything down. Because sometimes silence is more dangerous than the storm, and I was done being silent. So, was I the asshole for exposing my cheating wife at her own birthday party? If you're still listening, you're the reason we tell these stories. We drop new ones every week. Raw, emotional, unforgettable. Subscribe now and never miss the next twist. My fiancée found out I secretly paid for her degree, and she left me. I never expected one secret to destroy everything I had spent years building, but I guess I should have known. You can't build a relationship on silence, no matter how good your intentions. My name's Adam. I'm 33 years old, live in Minneapolis, and I was engaged, I'd been with my fiancée, Michelle, for almost 7 years. We met at a trivia night at this little brewery downtown. She and her friends smoked my team in the final round. She gave me this smug smile when they won, and I couldn't help but walk over and introduce myself. She had this kind of sharpness about her, not in a cruel way, just in that I know who I am kind of way. Michelle was 25 back then, working part-time at a bookstore while trying to finish her degree in early childhood education. I was already working full-time as a web developer, doing well for myself. We clicked fast, moved in together within 8 months, and the first couple years were honestly perfect. But money was always tight for her. She didn't come from much, single mom, 2 younger brothers, worked 3 jobs through high school. She was the kind of person who refused help, fiercely independent, maybe even to a fault. When she started falling behind on tuition, she didn't tell me at first. I only found out when I came across a late notice while sorting mail. She tried to play it off, said she was working it out, that she didn't want to drag me into her problems. But I hated seeing her struggle, watching her work 30 hours a week on top of school, burning out, skipping meals to make rent. It made me feel helpless. So I made a decision. I called the university, asked what it would take to cover her final year, and then I quietly paid it anonymously. I set up a fund through a friend who worked in admin and made sure the payments would go through as a student support grant. I never told Michelle. I just let her believe she got lucky. And she did get lucky. She graduated with honors, got her first teaching job at a nearby elementary school, and finally started breathing again. We celebrated with dinner at her favorite Italian place. She cried that night, saying she didn't think she would have made it if that mysterious donor hadn't come through. I smiled. I said, "Some people get the help they deserve." I didn't say anything because I didn't want her to feel like she owed me. That's the thing with Michelle. She hated feeling indebted. Even if it was out of love. She would have resented it, I know she would have. And maybe that was selfish of me, deciding what was best without asking. But at the time, it felt right. 3 more years passed. We built a life together. Got a little dog, talked about buying a house. I proposed on the dock where we first said, "I love you." She said yes before I could finish the question. I thought we were unbreakable. Until last month. It started with a strange mood shift. I came home from work one evening, and she was quiet. Not angry, just distant. Said she was tired, that her head hurt, that she just needed to lie down. I didn't push. The next few days were the same, until she finally sat me down and asked, "Adam, is there anything you've never told me? Anything I should know?" I tried to play dumb. "What do you mean?" She looked me dead in the eye. "Did you pay for my tuition?" My heart dropped. Apparently, one of her coworkers at school had a sister in the university's financial office. They were chatting over lunch, and Michelle casually mentioned the grant she got years ago. Her coworker was curious, said it didn't sound like a typical award. She made a couple of calls, dug around, and found my name buried in the payment records. Michelle was livid. Not immediately. First, she went quiet, walked out of the apartment, didn't say a word. She was gone for 5 hours. When she came back, her eyes were red. I tried to explain, told her I only wanted to help, that I didn't want to make her feel obligated or guilty, that it wasn't about control, it was love. She didn't yell. That's the thing. She just stared at me like I was a stranger, like she didn't know who I was anymore. And then she asked, "Why didn't you trust me enough to tell me the truth?" I told her it wasn't about trust. It was about protecting her pride, about letting her finish school without feeling like she owed me. I thought I was doing the right thing. She shook her head and said something I'll never forget. "You made a huge decision about my life without including me. That's not love, Adam. That's control dressed up as kindness." The next morning, she packed a bag, said she was staying with her sister for a while, that she needed space. That was 3 weeks ago. She hasn't come back. I've sent her texts, called. No response. The only message I got was last Friday. A short, cold text. "I'm not ready to talk. I keep going over it in my head. Did I really do something that unforgivable? I helped her finish school. I paid off her stress. I gave her freedom. But now I'm starting to wonder, was it really for her? Or was it for me? So I could feel like the hero. So I could carry the weight of our relationship and never let her see me as vulnerable. I didn't think helping someone could make you the villain. But here I am, sitting in an empty apartment, staring at a ring that doesn't have a finger anymore. And the silence hurts more than anything she could have screamed. 2 weeks later, I finally got a message from her. She wanted to meet for coffee, said she had things to say. We sat down in the same cafe where we used to plan vacations and joke about baby names. She looked tired. She told me she still loved me, that nothing I did erased the years we spent together, that she understood I meant well. But she said something in her broke when she found out. Not because I helped, but because I didn't trust her to handle the truth. That every time she thought about her graduation, her first classroom, all her milestones, they felt tainted now, like she hadn't earned them on her own. I told her I never wanted to take anything away from her, that she worked her ass off with or without the money, that she still earned everything. She smiled, but it was sad. Then she handed me the ring. "I need to find myself without you, without anyone saving me." She left, just like that. I sat there for an hour, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. She was gone. It's been 3 months now. I still haven't moved her stuff. I walk by the shelf with her favorite mugs and wonder if she's using new ones. I don't know where she lives. I don't know what she tells people about me. But I know what I'd say about her. She was strong, proud, brilliant. She never needed saving, just support. And maybe the difference between the two was something I never really understood until it was too late. So here I am, asking the world, was I the asshole for helping the woman I loved and never telling her the truth? Maybe I was. But if you've ever loved someone so much you'd do anything to ease their pain, you might understand how I got here. If the story pulled you in, if it made you stop and think, then you're exactly the kind of person I want to keep walking this journey with. Subscribe to the channel for more raw, emotional stories that aren't afraid to ask the hard questions. Because sometimes the line between love and mistake is thinner than we think. Am I the asshole for refusing to help my sister after she stole something I could never replace? You know how people say that blood is thicker than water? I used to believe that with my whole heart. I grew up thinking family meant unconditional love, trust, and the knowledge that, no matter what, we had each other's backs. But lately, I'm not so sure. And honestly, I feel like I'm losing my grip on what's right or wrong. I'm 32, married, and living a pretty quiet life with my wife, Claire. We don't have kids yet, but we do have a dog who's basically our child. I also have one sibling, my younger sister, Emily, who's 28. Growing up, Emily and I were close, but we were different. I was the cautious one, the play-it-safe type. Emily was bold, impulsive, and had this knack for getting herself into trouble and somehow charming her way out of it. Our parents passed away when I was 24 and Emily was 20. It was a rough time. We clung to each other. We inherited a few things, but the most important to me wasn't worth much money. It was our dad's old wristwatch, a battered vintage piece he wore every single day until the day he died. He got it from his father, and it was the one physical thing that still smelled faintly like his aftershave. I never took it to a jeweler. I didn't want it cleaned or restored. I kept it in a small wooden box in my dresser. I'd take it out on tough days, wind it, listen to the soft ticking, and somehow it made me feel like Dad was still in the room. Emily knew how much it meant to me. Fast forward to about 6 months ago. Emily came over for dinner. We had wine, talked, laughed, and at some point she excused herself to use the bathroom. Nothing unusual. But 2 days later, I went to grab Dad's watch to wear to a meeting, and it was gone. I tore my dresser apart, checked the laundry, the bathroom, even the kitchen. I asked Claire if she'd moved it, but she shook her head. My stomach sank. I called Emily, and at first, she laughed it off, saying, "Why would I want some old watch?" But her tone shifted when I pressed. Finally, she admitted, "Okay, fine. I borrowed it. I was going to give it back. I needed it for a little while." Apparently, she'd pawned it. She claimed she was short on rent and didn't want to tell me because she was embarrassed. She swore she'd get it back within a week. That was 6 months ago. When I demanded to know where it was, she gave me this vague story about the pawn shop selling it before she could buy it back. I was furious. I didn't even care about the money. I would have paid whatever it took to get it back. But she didn't even give me the chance. Since then, she's been trying to smooth things over. She sent me a few texts, tried to stop by, even mailed me a cheap knockoff watch as a peace offering. I didn't respond. Couldn't. Last week, she showed up at my front door, crying. She told me she'd lost her job and was about to be evicted. She begged me to let her stay with us for just a month, until she could get back on her feet. I told her no. I said I couldn't trust her in my home after what she did. She exploded, calling me heartless, selfish, even saying Dad would be ashamed of me for turning my back on her. Claire stayed silent, but later she told me she supports my decision. Now my phone is blowing up with messages from some relatives saying I'm overreacting, that it's just a watch, and I should forgive her because she's family. But to me, it wasn't just a watch. It was the last piece of my dad I had left. And Emily didn't just take it. She made sure I could never get it back. So now I'm sitting here wondering, am I really the asshole for refusing to help my sister when she's in trouble? Don't just listen and move on. Make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss the next story. Am I the asshole for kicking my sister out after she tried to take over my wedding? I, 29F, never thought I'd be the type of person to even consider cutting family out of my life. But this past year has made me question whether blood is enough to excuse certain behavior. This whole situation revolves around my younger sister, Emily, 26F, and my wedding. What should have been one of the happiest days of my life turned into a stress-filled circus that still gives me knots in my stomach when I think about it. To give you some context, Emily and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child in my parents' eyes. She was bubbly, outgoing, and seemed to effortlessly charm people wherever she went. I was more introverted, academically inclined, and never really cared for the spotlight. That dynamic carried into adulthood. Emily was always the center of attention at family gatherings, and I was the one sitting quietly on the couch, sipping my drink and smiling at the chaos. Now, I didn't resent her for that, not at first, but over the years, I started to notice a pattern. Whenever something good happened in my life, Emily would somehow make it about her. When I graduated from college, she announced she was pregnant at my graduation dinner. When I got a promotion at work, she accidentally shared that she was buying a house that same week. And when I got engaged to my fiancé, Ryan 31M, that's where the story really starts. Ryan proposed to me last year on a trip to the mountains. It was just the two of us, watching the sunset over this breathtaking valley. When he pulled out the ring, I cried, said yes, and it felt like a perfect moment out of a movie. When we came back, I couldn't wait to share the news with my family. I called my parents first, they were thrilled, and then I called Emily. She squealed, said all the right things, and promised to help me with anything I needed for the wedding. A week later, my mom called and casually mentioned that Emily had announced her own engagement to her boyfriend of 3 months during brunch with the family. I hadn't even had my engagement party yet. I told myself it was just bad timing, that she wasn't intentionally trying to steal my thunder, but deep down, I felt that familiar sting. Still, I tried to brush it off. Fast forward a few months into wedding planning. Ryan and I had set a date, booked a venue, and I'd asked Emily to be my maid of honor. She seemed genuinely excited at first, sending me Pinterest boards of dress ideas and suggesting fun bachelorette party themes. But slowly, her suggestions started feeling more like demands. She told me my dress was too plain and that I should wear something more dramatic. Basically a ball gown dripping with crystals. She kept pushing for me to have a massive bridal party. Even though I told her from the start, I wanted to keep it small and intimate. When I stuck to my vision, she'd pout and say things like, "Well, it's your wedding, but don't be mad if people think it's a little boring." Then came the guest list drama. Emily wanted me to invite her friends, people I barely knew, because they'd make the reception more fun. When I politely said no, she accused me of being stingy and not wanting her to enjoy herself. At one point, she actually told me I should change the date because it conflicted with some music festival she wanted to attend. I laughed at first, thinking she was joking, but she wasn't. The tipping point came 2 months before the wedding. My mom called me, sounding nervous, and told me I needed to clear up the confusion because Emily had been telling people she was planning the wedding. Apparently, she'd been referring to it as our wedding in conversations, and some distant relatives actually thought we were having a joint ceremony for both sisters. When I confronted Emily, she acted like I was overreacting. She said, "Oh my God, it's not that deep. I just meant I'm helping plan it. Don't be so territorial." At that point, I was done trying to be the bigger person. I told her she needed to back off and respect my boundaries. She gave me a fake apology, and I naively thought that would be the end of it. But no. 2 weeks before the wedding, my florist called me in a panic. She said Emily had shown up at her shop, claiming to be me, and tried to change the entire flower order. She wanted different arrangements, different colors, completely opposite of what I'd chosen. The florist, bless her heart, refused without my confirmation, which is the only reason I found out in time. I was furious. I called Emily and asked her what the hell she was thinking. She said she thought my flowers were too dull, and that she was just trying to help make it prettier. I told her that if she pulled one more stunt like that, she'd be out of the wedding entirely. Well, she did. The night before the wedding, we had the rehearsal dinner. Everything seemed fine, until Emily stood up to give an unplanned speech. In front of my family, Ryan's family, and all our closest friends, she announced that she and her fiancé had decided to move their wedding up and would be getting married in just a few weeks. She even joked that she was stealing my vendors because she loved my choices so much. I saw red. I stood up, walked over to her, and told her to leave, right there in front of everyone. She looked shocked, but I didn't care. I said, "You've been trying to make this about you from the start, and I'm done. You're no longer my maid of honor, and you're not welcome at my wedding tomorrow." She started crying. My parents tried to calm me down, but I didn't budge. The next day, I got married without her there. And you know what? It was peaceful, stress-free, beautiful. But afterward, I was bombarded with messages from family saying I was heartless for kicking her out, that I'd ruined our relationship over petty drama. My mom is especially upset, saying that I humiliated Emily in front of everyone. Ryan is 100% on my side, as are my closest friends, but now I'm left wondering, did I go too far? Could I have just ignored her behavior for one more day instead of blowing up the night before my wedding? Am I the asshole? If you want more true, insane family drama stories like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss one. Trust me, the next one will leave you speechless. Am I the asshole for kicking my brother out after he stole something I can never replace? If you've ever had something in your life that meant more than money, you'll understand why I did what I did. I've replayed this in my head 100 times, and no matter how I turn it over, the ending is the same. But I'm not blind. I know from the outside it might look cold, heartless even, and maybe that's why I'm here, trying to lay it all out from the beginning. I'm 32, male. I live alone in the house I bought 5 years ago in our small Ohio town. I work as a machinist. Decent job, stable hours, nothing glamorous. But stability is my holy grail because I didn't grow up with it. My parents were the definition of unstable. Dad drank, Mom disappeared for days at a time, and my younger brother Josh and I, we learned to fend for ourselves. Josh is 28 now, but if I'm honest, sometimes it feels like he never really left 16 behind. He's been in and out of jobs, crashed at my place a dozen times, and while he's got charm, he's also got this magnet for trouble. I've bailed him out of situations more times than I can count. Usually, it's something like rent money or a ride home when his car breaks down. Annoying, but forgivable. This time, it's different. There's something you need to know about me before I explain what happened. I have one thing in this world that I treat like a piece of my soul. My dad's old Seiko watch. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. Why would a drunk dad's watch matter so much? But here's the thing, before he spiraled into the man who could destroy a room with his anger, he was good. And when I turned 18, before he really lost himself, he gave me that watch. Said it was, for the man you're becoming. It's not flashy. Stainless steel. A couple scratches on the face. But it's been on my wrist for every big moment in my life. First apartment, first real job, when I signed the papers for this house. I take it off at night and set it on my nightstand, always in the same spot. That's how ingrained it was in my life. Josh had been staying with me for 2 weeks before it happened. His friend kicked him out of his apartment because Josh couldn't cover his share of rent. So of course, I opened my door again. He promised that it would be temporary, just until his next paycheck. I didn't argue. We watched TV, ate cheap takeout, and I thought maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. Then, last Friday, I came home from work and something was off. You know that gut feeling you get before your brain can pinpoint what's wrong? I walked into my bedroom and my nightstand was empty. No watch. At first, I told myself I must have left it in the bathroom or set it on the kitchen counter that morning. I searched every surface in the house. Nothing. My stomach sank. I went into the living room where Josh was sprawled out on the couch, eyes on his phone. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Have you seen my watch?" He didn't even look up. "Which one?" "The Seiko. Dad's watch." That's when he froze. Just for a second, but long enough for my blood to run cold. He looked at me with that fake confusion he uses when he's lying. "Nah, haven't seen it. Maybe you lost it." I knew right then. My brother, my flesh and blood, had taken the one thing in this world I could never replace. I didn't explode. I didn't want to give him that. Instead, I walked into my garage, grabbed my keys, and drove straight to the pawn shop 3 blocks away. Josh had pawned stuff before when he was desperate. His own phone, his gaming console, and it was always the same place. And sure enough, the guy behind the counter didn't even try to hide it. Yeah, had a young guy in here a couple hours ago, sold me a Seiko for $50. Said he needed gas money. My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped a chain around it. I told the guy it was stolen property. He shrugged and said I could buy it back for $200. Store policy, even though it was mine. I didn't have the energy to argue, so I paid. I walked out of there with the watch clutched in my hand so tightly the edges dug into my palm. When I got home, Josh was still on the couch. I set the watch on the coffee table between us. "Want to tell me why I had to buy back my own property?" He stammered, tried to spin some story about needing cash for an emergency. I asked him what emergency was worth stealing the only thing I had from Dad before he turned into a stranger. He had nothing, just silence. I told him to pack his things. Right then, He tried to laugh it off, said I was overreacting, said family should be able to forgive stupid mistakes. I told him forgiveness doesn't mean opening the door for someone to stab you in the back again. He left that night. I haven't heard from him in a week. My mom called, of course, to say I was being cruel, that he's your brother and you know he's got problems. But in my mind, the line's been drawn. There's helping family, and then there's letting them burn you down from the inside. So, am I the asshole for kicking him out and cutting him off after this? Or was this just the point where enough was enough? Am I the asshole for refusing to let my brother's fiancée wear my deceased wife's wedding dress? I never thought a piece of fabric could cause this much chaos in my life. But here I am, in my kitchen at 11:37 p.m., staring at my phone, reading a string of angry texts from my brother, my mother, and even my sister-in-law-to-be, all telling me in their own colorful ways that I'm selfish, heartless, and holding on to the past in a way that's unhealthy for everyone. All because I said no. And I'll be honest, my no wasn't some polite, sugar-coated refusal. It was blunt, short, final. But in my mind, it had to be. See, my late wife, Emily, passed away 4 years ago. She was 32, ovarian cancer. We had been married for just 5 years at the time, and together for almost a decade before that. Losing her, well, I don't even have the words. Anyone who's lost someone like that knows there's a hole that doesn't close. You just learn to live around it. When Emily and I got married, she wore a dress that we had picked together. That might sound unusual. Most brides want it to be a surprise, but Emily wanted me to be part of it. We spent an entire Saturday driving to different boutiques, sipping coffee between stops, and laughing at the absolutely ridiculous prices of some dresses. Then, at this little quiet shop tucked between a bookstore and a florist, she found it. Ivory lace, off the shoulder, fitted bodice, flowing skirt. Timeless. It wasn't cheap, but it wasn't the most expensive either. What made it special was how she looked at herself in the mirror, turned to me, and whispered, "This feels like me." That was it. That was the one. And when she walked down the aisle in it, I remember thinking she looked like every beautiful thing in my life had been stitched into that fabric. After she passed, I had the dress professionally cleaned and preserved in a sealed box. Not because I planned to do anything with it, but because it was hers. It was part of our history, part of my history. Fast forward to 2 months ago. My younger brother Mark gets engaged to his girlfriend, Hannah. They've been together about 2 years. I'm happy for them, genuinely. I even offered to help pay for the wedding because I know money's been tight for them. I thought I was being supportive. Then last week, Hannah calls me. Her voice is all sweet and warm at first, asking how I've been, telling me she's so excited for the big day. Then she says she has a special request. She tells me she's been looking at dresses but hasn't found anything that feels right. And then she casually drops that she'd love to wear Emily's dress. At first, I thought I misheard her. My mind didn't even go to anger at that moment. I was just stunned. I think I said something like, "I'm sorry, what?" And she repeats it, explaining how it would be such an honor to wear the dress, that it would stay in the family, and that Emily would want her to have it. That last part, that's when my shock turned into a knot in my chest. Emily didn't even know Hannah. My wife died 2 years before my brother even met her. And the idea that someone who never met her could tell me what she would have wanted made my skin crawl. I told Hannah, as calmly as I could, that the dress wasn't something I was willing to give up, that it was a personal, sentimental item, and it was off limits. I didn't yell, I didn't insult her. I just said no. Her tone changed immediately. She said she thought I would be more open-minded, that it wasn't like I was ever going to use it again, and that keeping it in a box forever was a waste. I told her again, no, and then she hung up. 10 minutes later, I get a call from Mark. He's furious, saying Hannah is crying, that I humiliated her by refusing, that I'm stuck in the past, and using Emily's memory to control people. He even said I was choosing a dress over family. I told him flat out that the dress was not up for discussion. That was when he called me an asshole. Now, my mom's involved. She says she understands it's sentimental, but maybe sharing it is a way to honor Emily, and that Emily wouldn't want me to be bitter. My dad hasn't said much, but I can tell he thinks I should just let it go to avoid drama. But to me, this isn't about avoiding drama. This isn't about Hannah's feelings or Mark's wedding budget. It's about Emily. It's about the last physical piece I have of one of the happiest days of my life. And I can't imagine seeing someone else, especially someone who never knew her, walk down the aisle in it. The part that's really getting to me, though, is how quickly my family seems willing to dismiss my feelings here. Like grief has an expiration date and 4 years is long enough to move on. But the truth is, you never stop loving someone just because they're gone. And you don't give away the pieces of them you have left just to make someone else's day easier. So now I'm sitting here wondering if I really am being selfish. If maybe the right thing is to let go and let Hannah have it. But every instinct in me is screaming not to. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my brother's fiancé wear my deceased wife's wedding dress? Subscribe for more stories. You won't want to miss what's coming next. The wedding that wasn't mine anymore. I don't think I've ever been this torn about something in my life. For months, I've been telling myself that I'm just overreacting. But deep down, I know this isn't just wedding stress. It's betrayal. It's humiliation. And it's the realization that the people you trust most can casually push you aside when it's convenient for them. I'm a 29-year-old woman, and I've been with my fiancé, Mark, for almost 6 years. We met in college, started dating senior year, and by the time we were both settled into stable jobs, we were basically inseparable. 2 years ago, he proposed. It was perfect. He planned this whole picnic in the park with our families hiding nearby to surprise me after I said yes. For the first year of our engagement, everything was great. We were taking our time planning because we wanted to save for a nice wedding, and I wanted to make sure we did it right. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, not just some thrown-together party. Then, about 8 months ago, my younger sister, Emma, 26, got engaged to her boyfriend, Jake. I was happy for her at first, until I noticed that her wedding ideas sounded eerily similar to mine. I'm talking exact same venue, exact same theme, rustic boho, even wanting the same dress designer I had been gushing about for over a year. I thought it was just a coincidence, but things started to feel off. Whenever we'd talk about my wedding, Emma would suddenly find a way to compare it to hers. If I said, "We're doing long wooden tables with greenery runners," she'd chime in with, "Oh, that's cute. We're doing something similar, but with way more flowers so it looks fuller." It wasn't just her. My mom started doing it too. If I sent her a picture of the bridesmaids' dresses I picked, she'd respond with, "Those are nice, but have you seen the ones Emma is looking at? They're so flattering." Slowly, my excitement started to fade. I didn't even want to share my plans anymore. The breaking point came about 3 months ago. My venue called to let me know that someone from my family had called about changing the date of my wedding. I was confused because why would I change it? I called back, and the coordinator said that my sister had told them we were thinking of moving it back 6 months to give ourselves more time. I was furious. I called Emma immediately, and she admitted she had called, but claimed it was just to ask about availability for her own wedding, and that it was all a misunderstanding. I didn't buy it, but here's where it gets insane. 2 weeks later, my mom and Emma sat me down and told me they had a proposal. Emma's wedding was going to be 3 months before mine, but she and Jake were on a tighter budget and didn't have time to plan from scratch. So they wanted to combine the weddings. One venue, one set of decorations, one photographer, just different ceremonies on the same day. I thought they were joking, but they were dead serious. I told them absolutely not. This is supposed to be my day, and I wasn't going to share it. Emma got teary-eyed. Mom said I was being selfish and not thinking about the family. And then Mark, my own fiancé, suggested we hear them out because it could save us a lot of money. That night, I didn't sleep. I just kept thinking, if my own partner isn't fully on my side for something as big as this, what does that mean for our future? I told Mark the next day that I wasn't budging. The wedding would be ours alone, and if Emma wanted help planning hers, she could ask, but it wouldn't be combined. He said fine, but I could tell he wasn't happy. Then the sabotage started. My florist called and said Emma had reached out to adjust my flower order on my behalf. My cake baker emailed saying the design had been switched to match Emma's inspiration photo. Even my DJ messaged asking if I really wanted to change the playlist to more upbeat songs. Emma again. I lost it. I called Emma and told her to stay out of my vendors, my plans, and my wedding entirely. She cried, accused me of ruining her dream day, and hung up. Here's the kicker. 2 weeks later, my mom called and said she and my dad had decided to give their financial contribution for my wedding to Emma instead, because she needed it more. When I told Mark, he said maybe we should just postpone the wedding until things cooled down. That's when I realized this isn't about a date or flowers or a venue. This is about respect. And I was clearly the only one respecting mine. So last month, I canceled the wedding entirely. Not postponed, canceled. I told Mark that until I felt like he was truly on my side. I wasn't walking down any aisle. He's been upset, says I'm throwing away years together over a petty fight, and keeps trying to get me to reconsider. Emma? She's already booked my old venue and date. Mark keeps calling me stubborn. My mom says I'm making the family look bad. And Emma's posting nonstop about manifesting your perfect day. I feel like I'm living in some twisted reality where I'm the villain for wanting my own wedding to be mine. So, am I the asshole for canceling my wedding over this? You know, it's crazy how people will tell you it's your day, right up until it inconveniences them. If you made it this far, stick around for more stories like this. You won't want to miss the next one. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my sister move back in after she destroyed my wedding? I'm still shaking while writing this because even though it's been almost a year, my blood pressure shoots through the roof every time I think about it. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to write a post like this, but I need outside perspectives because half my family is making me feel like I'm some cold, ungrateful monster. So here's the backstory. I, 29F, have one sister, Emily, 26F. Growing up, we weren't exactly inseparable, but we were close enough. We shared a bedroom until I was 14. We fought over stupid stuff like whose turn it was to wash the dishes, and we occasionally stole each other's clothes without asking. Normal sibling stuff. But things started changing when we hit our late teens. Emily has always been more impulsive than me. She was the type to drop out of college on a whim to find herself. She never did. To quit a job because the vibe wasn't right, and to move in with a guy she'd been dating for 3 weeks. Meanwhile, I was the steady, boring one, went to college, got my degree, saved money, worked a stable job, bought my own condo. I was also the one Emily called whenever her impulsiveness blew up in her face. Over the years, I loaned her money, sometimes in the thousands, that I never got back. I let her crash at my place rent-free for a few weeks that always turned into months. I helped her get jobs by putting in a good word for her, only for her to quit within weeks. And every single time, she'd promised she'd be more responsible. Every single time, she wasn't. Fast forward to last year. I got engaged to my now husband, Michael, 31M, and for the first time in my life, I was planning something truly about me. I saved up for my dream wedding. We're not talking anything absurdly extravagant, but it was still a solid $25,000 event that I paid for almost entirely myself. Michael's family chipped in a bit, but I didn't want to lean on anyone, especially my parents, who aren't wealthy. Emily was, of course, a bridesmaid. I wanted to include her because despite everything, she was my sister. I even offered to cover her dress, hair, makeup, the works, because she claimed she was broke. This was on top of letting her live in my condo for the past 4 months while she figured things out after her last breakup. From the moment wedding planning started, Emily made everything about her. She complained about the dress color, a soft sage green that everyone else loved, said the hairstyle I picked wasn't flattering for her face, and rolled her eyes whenever we talked about anything wedding-related. Then came the bachelorette party. I'd asked my maid of honor, my best friend, Sarah, to plan something low-key because I'm not a huge party person. Think wine tasting, spa day, dinner out, classy and relaxed. Emily insisted it should be a real bachelorette and tried to hijack the plans for a wild Vegas weekend. When Sarah told her we weren't doing that, Emily sulked the entire party. Michael and I brushed it off. That's just Emily, I told him, like I always do. But I wish I'd listened to him when he said, "Babe, I think your sister's going to cause trouble." Because oh boy did she. The wedding day disaster. The day of the wedding, I woke up feeling nervous but happy. Everything was going according to plan. Hair and makeup teams arrived on time, the photographer was clicking away, and my dress fit perfectly. Emily was quiet that morning, but I assumed she was just tired. Then, about 30 minutes before the ceremony, my maid of honor rushed into the bridal suite, pale as a ghost. "We have a problem," she whispered. My stomach dropped. Apparently, Emily had been spotted outside the venue, in a white floor-length gown. Not her sage green bridesmaid dress, not even a casual dress. A literal white ball gown, complete with lace and a train. I thought Sarah was joking. She wasn't. I stormed out to find Emily standing in the foyer, taking selfies. "What the hell are you wearing?" I demanded. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Well, I figured if you're going all out, I should too. This is my only chance to wear something like this." I told her to go change into the bridesmaid dress immediately. She smirked and said, "It's my right to wear whatever I want. It's not like anyone will confuse me for the bride." We argued, loudly. Guests started arriving, and there I was, 15 minutes before my ceremony, begging my sister to just not sabotage the biggest day of my life. She refused. I finally told her if she didn't change, she wasn't walking down the aisle as a bridesmaid. She shrugged and said, "Fine, I'll just sit in the front row looking fabulous." At that point, I was shaking with rage. I told security, yes, we had event security because the venue required it, not to let her in unless she changed. Emily freaked out, screaming that I was ruining our relationship and embarrassing her. She stormed off, got into her car, and left. Aftermath. The ceremony went on without her. It was still beautiful, but the absence of my own sister was a dark cloud over the day. My mom was furious at me for kicking Emily out and spent half the reception glaring at me. Several relatives whispered about family drama. Michael's side of the family looked visibly uncomfortable. Later that night, I got a string of texts from Emily calling me selfish, controlling, and an attention hog. She claimed she was trying to make the wedding fun, and that I overreacted. I didn't respond. For months after, she refused to speak to me unless it was to demand I apologize. I didn't. The current situation. Now, almost a year later, Emily just called me out of the blue. She's broken up with another boyfriend, lost her apartment, and wants to move back in with me temporarily. She says she has nowhere else to go, and that family should be there for each other no matter what. I told her no. I reminded her of the wedding, of all the times she's taken advantage of me, and said I was done being her safety net. She burst into tears, calling me cruel. My mom called me afterward, saying Emily is just going through a rough patch, and that I'm holding a grudge. Maybe I am, but I feel like letting her back into my home would just reset the same toxic cycle we've been in for years. So, am I the asshole for refusing to let my sister move back in after she destroyed my wedding? If you love hearing wild family drama like this, don't forget to follow and subscribe. You won't believe the stories I have coming next. Am I the asshole for refusing to take my sister's kids after she screwed me over? I'm 34, married to my wife Emily for 5 years. We've been trying to have kids for a while with no luck. It's been a sensitive subject and we've gone through fertility treatments, doctor visits, the whole thing. Honestly, it's been an emotional roller coaster. Some days we're hopeful, other days it feels like the universe is laughing at us. My older sister, Jenna, 37, has 3 kids, ages 8, 6, and 3. She's always been the wild one in the family, irresponsible with money, dating unstable guys, constantly getting herself into drama. My parents have bailed her out financially more times than I can count, but she always seems to land right back in trouble. 2 years ago, Jenna called me in tears saying she and her husband at the time were about to be evicted. She begged me for $10,000 to get back on her feet. At the time, Emily and I were saving up for IVF, but Jenna swore it was a one-time thing and she'd pay me back. Against Emily's better judgment, I gave her the money. I even made her sign a simple written agreement, just to keep things clear. Of course, she never paid me back. Not a single penny. Fast forward to a few months ago. Jenna's marriage blew up. Surprise, surprise, and she's been bouncing between apartments. Then last month, she called me again, crying, saying she's in a bad place and needs someone to take the kids temporarily because she just can't cope. She wanted me and Emily to take them for a few months while she gets herself together. Now, here's where it gets messy. Emily and I had just decided to take a break from fertility treatments to focus on ourselves. We were finally starting to heal emotionally. Taking in 3 young kids would flip our lives upside down. But the bigger issue, I just didn't trust Jenna. I had this gut feeling that a few months would turn into forever, and that she would dump her responsibilities on us permanently. I told her I couldn't do it. I said, "Jenna, you've put me in tough spots before, and you've broken promises. I can't take that on right now." She went absolutely ballistic, screaming that I was selfish, heartless, and punishing her kids for her mistakes. My parents jumped in, saying I was the only stable one in the family and I had to step up. They even guilt-tripped me, saying, "Think of the children, not Jenna." Here's the thing. It's not that I don't care about my nieces and nephew. I love them, but I also know what it would do to me and Emily. We've been through enough, and I'm not willing to throw away the little stability we've built because Jenna refuses to get her life together. The emotional baggage, the financial strain, the total upheaval. It's not something I can say yes to just to make my family feel better about Jenna's bad choices. Since then, I've been painted as the villain in my family. My parents barely talk to me. Jenna has been blasting me on Facebook, posting passive-aggressive things about family who turns their back when you need them most. People are actually messaging me asking why I'm not helping my poor sister. And here's the kicker. 2 days ago, I found out Jenna did find someone to take the kids, her ex-husband's parents. Apparently, they were hesitant, but she manipulated them into agreeing. And now I've heard through the grapevine that she's partying, posting on Instagram, going on weekend trips. So much for getting her life together. It makes my blood boil. If I had said yes, those kids would be in my house right now while Jenna was out living it up. And I'd be trapped, financially and emotionally, with no end in sight. So now I'm wondering, am I the asshole for refusing to take my sister's kids, knowing they'd be safe with me, but also knowing Jenna would have used me and never taken them back? Or did I finally just set a boundary that should have been there years ago? Subscribe for more insane real-life stories you won't believe actually happened. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my brother's fiancé wear my late wife's wedding dress? It's been almost 6 years since my wife, Emily, passed away. She was my first love, my college sweetheart, the one person who could make me laugh so hard I'd nearly choke and cry just as easily when she'd smile at me across a room. She was gone far too soon. Breast cancer took her at 32. In the time since, I've been learning to live with grief. Some days it's a whisper in the back of my mind. Other days it's a boulder pressing down on my chest. I've dated a little here and there, but nothing serious. I'm not ready for that level of commitment again, and I don't know if I ever will be. One thing I've held on to is her wedding dress. Emily had it custom-made, designed with her in mind from the first sketch. It wasn't extravagant. Emily wasn't into frills, but it was beautiful. Ivory silk, long lace sleeves, and the most delicate embroidery you could imagine. She looked like something out of a dream in it. After she died, I had it professionally cleaned and stored. Not in some damp attic or crammed closet, but in a climate-controlled box, wrapped in acid-free tissue. I didn't know what I'd do with it. Maybe keep it for memory's sake. Maybe pass it down if I ever had a daughter. But I knew I wasn't ready to let it go. That brings me to now. My younger brother, Tyler, is getting married to a woman named Monica in September. I've always had a complicated relationship with Tyler. He's 3 years younger, and while we were close as kids, he grew into, well, someone who likes getting his way. He's charming, but he can also be selfish. He's the type who borrows your car without asking and brings it back on empty, then wonders why you're upset. Monica is fine. We've never been close, but I've never disliked her. She's got a very main character energy. Loves attention, loves telling stories about herself, and loves having everything just so. She's been planning their wedding for months, and it's been a whole production, custom decorations, a vineyard venue, a 5-tier cake, the works. 2 weeks ago, I got a text from Monica that read, "Hey, weird question. Can we come by later this week? I have something I want to ask you about." Smiley face. I didn't think much of it. I figured it was wedding related. Maybe she wanted me to help with a toast or something. I told her sure, and she and Tyler came over on Thursday night. We made small talk for a bit. Then Monica pulled out her phone and showed me a picture of Emily on our wedding day. My stomach clenched a little. It always does when I see those photos, but I smiled and said, "Yeah, that was the best day of my life." Monica leaned forward, all smiles, and said, "So, I was thinking, I absolutely love Emily's dress. It's so timeless and elegant. I've been searching for something similar for months, and nothing compares. Would you consider letting me wear it for our wedding?" I thought I misheard her. "Wait, you want to wear Emily's dress?" She nodded enthusiastically. "It would be so special, like keeping it in the family, you know? And it's just sitting in storage anyway. I take amazing care of it. Obviously get it altered to fit me, but I could have it restored afterward. It'd be like giving it new life." I just stared at her for a few seconds, trying to process. Then I looked at Tyler, expecting him to step in and say, "Yeah, that was a bad idea," but he just gave me that look he gets when he's trying to play peacemaker. Half smile, eyebrows raised, like, "Come on, don't be difficult." I said, "Monica, that dress isn't just some garment to me. It's a piece of my history with Emily. I can't imagine anyone else wearing it." Her smile faltered. "I get that, but she's gone and you're not using it. I thought maybe it would be a nice way to honor her. Honor her? By cutting into her dress so it could fit Monica? By walking down the aisle in it like it wasn't a sacred memory to me?" I could feel my chest tightening. I said, "No, I'm sorry, but no. That dress is staying with me." Monica's face shifted, polite smile gone, replaced by something sharper. "Wow, okay, I didn't think you'd be so territorial. I'm not trying to take Emily's place. I just thought it'd be sentimental." Tyler chimed in. "Dude, it's just a dress. Monica would look amazing in it, and it's not like Emily can wear it again. Why not let it be part of another happy day instead of gathering dust?" I was stunned. I told them again, firmly, "No, it's not happening." They left soon after. Monica didn't even hug me goodbye. The next day, I got a call from my mom. Apparently, Monica had told her I refused to honor Emily's memory and was letting grief make me selfish. My mom tried to be diplomatic, but I could tell she thought I should reconsider. "It might be a way to let go a little," she said. I told her it wasn't about letting go. It was about respecting Emily's memory. That dress isn't just fabric. It's the memory of the day we promised each other forever. The last time I saw her so purely happy. Giving it to someone else, especially someone I'm not even close to, would feel like erasing part of our story. Since then, Tyler's been short with me. Monica hasn't spoken to me at all. My mom keeps saying it's not worth the drama, and that maybe I should just let them have this one thing. But to me, it's not one thing. It's everything. Still, part of me wonders, am I holding on to something too tightly? Is it wrong to keep a dress that'll never be worn again when it could make someone else happy? Or am I right that some things are too personal to give away, no matter what? I keep replaying the conversation in my head. The way Monica looked at me like I was the unreasonable one. The way Tyler acted like my grief was some annoying quirk I should just get over. I'm starting to feel isolated. Like maybe they're all right and I'm just being overly sentimental. But then I picture Emily, standing in front of me in that dress, her eyes shining, her hands in mine, and I know I could never see anyone else in it without feeling like I'd lost her all over again. So, am I the asshole? Subscribe for more unbelievable real-life stories just like this. You won't believe what happens in the next ones. I never thought I'd be the type of person to come to the internet for judgment, but here I am, questioning everything I thought I knew about family loyalty. So here goes. I'm 34, married to my wife Emma for 6 years, and we have a 5-year-old daughter. My younger brother Ryan, 28, is, to put it politely, a free spirit. He's the kind of guy who floats from job to job, relationship to relationship, and seems to always have some big dream brewing but never quite follows through. The family has always babied him, my parents especially. We grew up middle class, and our parents helped Ryan with everything. His first car, his apartment, even covering his rent more times than I can count. Meanwhile, I worked my butt off from the age of 16, put myself through college, and built a stable career. I've never asked them for money, not once. The problem started a few months ago when Ryan showed up at my house out of the blue. He had his duffel bag, his guitar, and this smug little smile that usually meant trouble. He sat me down and said, "Bro, I need a place to crash for a couple months, just until I get back on my feet." I wasn't thrilled, but Emma and I agreed family is family, right? We set some ground rules. No smoking in the house, help out with chores, and at least try to contribute to groceries. Ryan nodded along like it was no big deal. First, it was fine. He was polite, played with our daughter, even made dinner once or twice. But then it slowly spiraled. He started staying out until 2 or 3 a.m., leaving dirty dishes in the sink, and borrowing my tools without returning them. The final straw came when I realized he hadn't even been looking for a job. Instead, he was spending his days writing songs and live streaming himself playing video games in my living room. When I confronted him, he gave me this speech about how creative people can't be chained to the 9 to 5 and how society crushes free spirits. I told him flat out that this wasn't a hostel and that he needed to contribute if he wanted to keep living here. That's when things exploded. Ryan went on a rant about how I only care about money and forgot where we came from. He accused me of being the kind of asshole who turns his back on his own brother for a few bills. I reminded him that rent, utilities, and groceries aren't a few bills, and that Emma and I had our own family to think about. I gave him 2 weeks to figure something out. Instead of using that time to find a place, he called my parents. And of course, they took his side. I got a phone call from my mom, who said I was being cold-hearted, and that Ryan's just going through a rough patch. She even offered to pay me to let him stay. I said no, this wasn't about money, it was about respect. The tension in the family is unbearable now. My parents barely speak to me. Ryan's been posting passive-aggressive things on social media about fake family, and Emma's just relieved the house is quieter since he left. But part of me still feels guilty. He's my brother. So, am I the asshole for kicking my brother out after he disrespected my home and refused to contribute? If you're listening right now, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another story like this. I never thought I'd be the guy to write something like this, but here we are. I'm sitting here staring at my phone, wondering if I actually did the wrong thing, or if my entire family is just delusional. So, for some background, I'm 34, married to my wife, Sarah, for 8 years. We have a daughter, Ellie, who's 6. My younger brother, Ryan, is 29 and has a history of making questionable life choices. He's not a bad person, but he's impulsive, a little entitled, and has this way of making his problems everyone else's responsibility. Ryan's been dating this girl, Jenna, for about a year. They move fast, like, met in January, moved in together in March, talking about marriage by summer fast. I don't know Jenna well, but I've gotten the sense she's very big on appearances. She's the type who curates her Instagram like it's a brand campaign and loves telling people how high-class her tastes are. Even though she works part-time at a boutique and Ryan's between jobs more often than not. Anyway, last month, Ryan calls me all hyped up, says he's going to propose and wants to do something unforgettable. His brilliant idea? To propose at my daughter's birthday party. I laughed at first because I thought he was joking. But nope, he wanted to use Ellie's party, which we'd been planning for months, as the backdrop for his big moment. His reasoning was that everyone will already be there, and Jenna loves kids, so it'll be adorable. I told him absolutely not. Ellie's birthday is about her. She's been talking about this party for weeks. It's her first big party since the pandemic, and we've got a whole theme going. Unicorns, glitter, the works. The idea of turning it into Ryan and Jenna's engagement announcement felt wrong. Ryan got defensive, said I was being selfish, that it wouldn't take away from Ellie's day, and that it would actually make it more special because she'd always remember her uncle getting engaged at her party. I told him again, no. If he wanted a special proposal, he could plan his own event. He hung up on me. Fast forward to the day of the party. We're in the backyard. Kids are running around. Ellie's wearing this sparkly tutu she picked out herself. Everything's going great, until I notice Ryan looking jittery. During the cake cutting, he suddenly pulls Jenna up in front of everyone and starts the speech about how she's the love of his life. My stomach dropped because I knew exactly what he was about to do. Before he could drop to one knee, I stepped in, literally stepped between them and said, "Not now. This is Ellie's day." There was this awkward silence. Jenna looked confused. Ryan looked like I just slapped him, and my mom whispered, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" I didn't care. I told Ryan quietly, "We talked about this. You're not hijacking my kid's birthday." Then I told everyone, "All right, time to sing happy birthday," and just pushed on with the party. Ryan stormed out a few minutes later, Jenna trailing behind him. Later that night, my phone blew up with messages. Ryan called me a controlling jerk. My mom said I humiliated him and could have let him do it because it's just family. My dad stayed out of it, but my sister texted me saying, "Honestly, I would have been pissed too if I were him." Even Sarah, my wife, said maybe I could have just let it happen to avoid drama, though she agreed the whole idea was tacky. The thing is, I knew if I let it happen, Ellie would have been confused. She's 6. She wouldn't understand why her big day suddenly turned into a celebration for Uncle Ryan and Aunt Jenna. And I didn't want her memory of this birthday to be about someone else's milestone. Ryan hasn't spoken to me since. He's posted vague stuff on Facebook about family who don't support love, and Jenna's been liking comments about jealous people who can't be happy for others. Now I'm just wondering, was I really the asshole here? Should I have just swallowed my pride for one day to keep the peace? Or was I right to draw the line and keep my daughter's party about her? If you were hooked by this story, hit that subscribe button so you never miss the next one.